across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon to you. Just gone 4 o'clock. Welcome to Drive. Thank you to Ian Collins, the Housewife's Choice. Back tomorrow, of course, from 1. But 3 hours of turbocharged madness between now and 7 o'clock. Loads of people lined up. The main news story of the day obviously centres around Lord Peter Mandelson. I don't know if you've seen this clip already, but the Sun's lead editor-at-large, Harry Cole, now is about to launch a brand new YouTube channel show called Harry Cole Saves the West, live from Washington, D.C. every single night, Monday to Friday. Got a bit of an exclusive with Lord Mandelson. It turns out that in the Epstein drama that is engulfing the world, the man who was indicted, arrested and jailed for crimes against soliciting young girls primarily, then took his own life. Everybody wonders who's been involved. Mandelson, who, as I just already said, has already had to resign twice in the past over dodgy loans and passport applications that turned out to be a little bit fraudulent, sat down with Harry Cole because it turns out that he sent... people keep shouting yum yum at me. It turns out that he was quite close to Mandelson, describing him as his best friend, and he called him Petey. Just have a little... This is a bit of an exclusive. Harry Cole will be on the show at 5, but have a watch. This is Harry Cole with Lord Mandelson.
And I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done. And I regret very much that I fell for his lies. I fell and accepted assurances that he had given me about his indictment, his original criminal case in Florida. Like very many people, I took at face value what he said. With hindsight, with fresh information, many years later, we realised that we had been wrong to believe him. He's a charismatic criminal liar, we now see. And I regret very much indeed, I felt it like an albatross around my neck since his death in 2018 or 19 when it was. I feel a tremendous sense of regret, not only that I met him in the first place, but that I continued the association and I took at face value the lies that he fed me and many others.
Many other people. But we're talking about you, Lord Mandelson, a man whose judgment yet again is called into question. What he doesn't say there, which is going to be in this interview, seriously, Harry Cole Saves the West, the full show aired tonight on YouTube at 7 o'clock. Do not miss it when we finish. But here's the truth. He stayed in Mandelson's New York City home apartment after the guy was put in jail on remand or whatever for soliciting young girls. If that is the sort of judgment that Lord Mandelson makes, is he fit to be the ambassador to the United States? Of course, next week it's the state visit. Donald Trump's coming to the United Kingdom. He's supposed to be wound up in it as well. I don't know. He's denying involvement. But Mandelson, how is his place in, well, the diplomatic corps still tenable? What's really interesting as well is, for me, it asks a lot about our current Prime Minister. Again, his judgment. This time last week, we were sat here and he was saying, I stand by Angela Rayner. She's gone. And by the way, any more on her and he could be out. This week, he stands up at Prime Minister's Question Time. And I should say, if I'm being fair, Kemi Badenoch did a good job today. A great job, to be fair. She grilled him non-stop for half an hour. He said this: I have full confidence.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child prostitution and sex trafficking that took place between 2002 and 2005. That is the precise period which Lord Mandelson called Jeffrey Epstein his best pal. Absolutely. Was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington?
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret. He is right to do so. He's now playing an important part in the US-UK relationship.
Let's just cut to the chase. What do you make of our Prime Minister's judgment again is flawed, for Christ's sake? 0344 499 1000. I was going to say somebody's taking the calls, but I can't see anybody there. But I think it could be Jodie. I think she's rushed off to do something. Jodie's back. 0344 499 1000. Don't forget, we'd love your voice notes. Same number. Do it on WhatsApp. 0344 499 1000. And your text messages 8722. Start your message with the word talk. We'll start by saying a very good afternoon. The last time I saw her, we were stood together at the side of the Reform Party conference and she was grinning. Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. A very good afternoon. How are you?
I am very well, but I literally cannot believe that we are having another Peter Mandelson scandal.
Absolutely.
I mean, unfortunately, I'm old enough to have been a political reporter during some of his earlier scandals. You know, there have been many cabinet resignations too. I mean, that is quite something. 2 cabinet resignations in the past. And you know, I actually couldn't believe it when Keir Starmer appointed him, not least because of the very unflattering terms in which he described Donald Trump, who's not always the most forgiving of characters, and that history of gross misjudgment in the past. And the truth of the matter is, yes, Peter Mandelson heavily regrets his involvement with Epstein now because it's very, very embarrassing and perilous for him politically. But this is a man who has always loved the company of the world's richest people and has actively sought out that company and has allowed his pleasure in living the very high life amongst these types of characters to cloud his judgment on numerous occasions.
Couldn't agree more.
I just find it astonishing that Keir Starmer did what he did, but the background, I strongly suspect, is Mandelson's relationship with the grandees of the Labour Party, the Tony Blairs of this world, and that this was basically a stitch-up and that a deal was done as all part of Blair's support for the Starmer project.
The thing is, and I said it before, you're absolutely right, for people just tuning in, Peter Mandelson under the cosh. This time last week, Keir Starmer's judgment was called into question over Angela Rayner. We know what happened. We were at the Reform Party conference. She had to go. Mandelson, yes, resigns twice from the cabinet, is brought back. Does he know? I mean, sorry to coin this phrase, he must know where the bodies are buried, because here's the thing. If you're telling me that due process was carried out when they looked at this, then your due processes, Labour, are crap, because this man was always a ticking time bomb. It's OK to sit there. It's a great interview with Harry Cole tonight, please, by the way, online. Harry Cole's new show, Harry Cole Saves the West, from DC, on YouTube. Unbelievable, right? I mean, such a scoop for Harry, but there he sits going, you know, I'm sorry, and, you know, I've made a mistake. But the truth is, Keir Starmer, what you didn't, there was nothing on your political antennae. And if you were forced by the Labour grandees, as you quite rightly just said, Isabel, what does that say about this party? Let's just repeat in the last, what? We've had phase 2, that was last Monday. We're now into phase 3. Monday will be phase 4. We've had a housing minister who had to resign because she didn't pay enough stamp duty and lied about a system she'd set up. We had a corruption minister, Tulit Sadiq, who's had to resign because she's being investigated for, oh yes, corruption. That's right. We've got a homeless minister who threw people out of her rented apartment because she could get more rent, so they're homeless. And now we've got our ambassador to the United States ahead of a state visit, who turns out to be called Petey by a paedophile who goes yum yum. Can you explain to me, please, and the 4 people listening, where's the yum yum thing come from? I'm lost. What's that all about?
I really don't want to think about it. Thank you,
yum yum,
Gemma.
come on, yum yum.
I'd rather not think about it. My God, it's toe curling, isn't it? But
I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot as a bit of light-hearted relief. I'm also going to throw out during the show 8722. Start your message with the word talk. What's the cheekiest, rudest, funniest, or weirdest thing you've ever had said to you in a birthday card? Now, I know you're a classy lady, Isabel, but don't give me that look you sometimes do. This is from Bill, who says, I had a birthday card said to me. It said, I hope your birthday is like a chicken, a bit of breast, a bit of leg, and plenty of stuffing. Have a great day. Look at her face. Look, she's gone.
I'm pleading the fifth on this one. I mean, maybe it's just the kind of people that I'm friendly with. They don't tend to send messages like that. I hate to be boring. I wish I had something really funny or mischievous to tell you at this point, but I'm going to turn it on you. How about you? What's the...
Oh, just old git, 60 this year. You know, you'll have forgotten about this birthday by the time you open the card, all that sort of stuff. You know, old, or your face is frozen, or, you know, your teeth aren't your own. By the way, you can do me another favour, because my gorgeous daughter Iris and gorgeous son Oliver are listening. Hello, sweethearts. Say hello to my kids, because they love you.
Hello, kids. I bet you are not really kids. I mean, you're going to be a chip off the old block, I'm sure.
Oliver is, I think, yeah, and the other one as well. On a serious note for a minute, I just, mate, can't see him surviving. And again, this government is going to be accused of appalling judgment. Appalling.
So I differed with you on this one. I think he will survive.
Do you? Do you?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, unless something else comes out, he's given that apology. Basically, what it is, isn't it? That he's given in that fantastic scoop by Harry Cole. That should be enough to, under the circumstances, which are there is no way that Keir Starmer is going to want to lose his ambassador to the US. Under the circumstances, I think that will just about do it. What will change, of course, is if something else comes out about the relationship between the two men.
The only reason I would disagree with you absolutely there, and not because I've just done another programme on it, right, is that you and I both know the way this business works. He said in that interview, I can release this, I don't know if it's on that tape or not, he said there will be other damaging emails, I'm sure. I'm sorry, I don't see that as a sorry. I see that as a laying the ground. I think there will be more, and I think it will be a slow burn, and I think yet again he will have embarrassed himself and the British government. But actually, I bring it back again. You make a really great point about pressure from grandees. This guy is not fit for high office. Not at all. Never has been. Never.
I mean, I don't really know how many times a Labour leader needs to be told this. I mean, it's so... How many times does someone have to resign in disgrace from a prominent position for a Labour leader, a Labour Prime Minister, to understand that it really isn't that bright to put them in another prominent position, particularly one where they're once again going to be open to all manner of temptation? Do you know what I think this tells us more broadly, along with a list of resignations that you read out earlier? It's the absolute rank hypocrisy of these socialists. They like nothing better than feathering their own nests, than making their own lives more opulent, more glamorous, all the while telling the rest of us that we need to tighten our belts and donate more.
I said yesterday, you weren't on, so I'll repeat it. I make no apology that a rather famous defamation KC who worked with me for a few years, I remember ringing him, but a few weeks after our thing had finished, and he was at the Labour Party conference, and I must have gone, "What are you doing there?" And he said, "Jez, they all need defamation lawyers." And I said, "What, Tories and Labour?" And he told me something I've never let go of. He said they're similar, but the main difference is this: the Tories are into rent boys and drugs, and he wasn't joking, and the Labour Party are all about money, and they will always be about money, about, as you just said, feathering their nest. Got a couple of voice notes, have a listen. Peter on Lord Mandelson, go.
I think the least that Scandalson can do is to resign. You know, if he's got into that flat, what was he doing in there? Was he looking for something? And how did he get in there? Did he have a key? Oh dear, Scandalson. You need to resign, Peter Scandalson.
Good. Hannah on Lord Mandelson.
There is a reason why Mandelson was referred to as the Prince of Darkness. Funny how Starmer puts him back in a role, a very salubrious role. And it's funny how Starmer's standing by him today. I wonder why. I wonder what secrets they hold on each other. Interesting anyway, isn't it?
Well, I don't want to be a person that casts aspersions, but I did say out in the office, I wonder how much he's got on so many of the rest of them. Isabel?
Yes, I thought you were still talking to Andrew.
No, I'm talking to you. I mean, that you know, for me.
I mean, is now a good moment to say it might be a good idea for a Sunday newspaper journalist to seek out the views of Lord Ali on this whole mess? You know, maybe he has something to say that may cast some light on what's going on there with Starmer and Mandelson. And, you know, he seems to have the inside track on things. All gone very quiet with him, hasn't it?
Yeah. Listen, I want to hear from you this afternoon. 0344 499 1000. Should he stay or should he go? Is he a disgrace? Is Starmer's judgment again seen to be what it is, which is appalling? And in terms of the birthday message, when he said, lots of love, your best friend Petey, yum yum. What's the... I can't get over that. What have you had in a birthday card? The most outrageous? It can be offensive. We don't care on drive time. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. I have to tell you, actually, while we've been on air, Isabel, Labour MPs have started to break ranks, calling for Mandelson to be sacked. Bel Ribeiro Addy, that left-wing challenger for the leadership of the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, says that he should face an investigation. Sir Laurie Magnus, Kim Johnson, the MP for Liverpool Riverside, saying he was complicit and should never have been appointed in the first place. They'll start like they always do. Two other stories I'd like to check with you on, if it's OK. This was shocking today. I nearly fell off my chair. Not. The number of Brits who think the dangers of global warming are trumped up has soared by 50% in 4 years. Your partner says net stupid zero. Maybe people are waking up to that fact, Isabel Oakeshott.
Well, I mean, I'd say good work to Richard here. Obviously, I have some vested interest in that particular cause. But, you know, when Reform started talking about this a few years ago, it was so much of a taboo that I can tell you that there were venues that were cancelling Reform speakers, including Richard Tice, because they feared the repercussions of any political figure talking about raising questions over net zero. That's how cult-like it was. It was actually really quite difficult to have a public conversation about it. But certain people have kept going on this, and actually the narrative is really changing. People, you know, certain times it's just become ridiculous, hasn't it? Do you remember global boiling? Do you remember that one?
Yep.
You know, sometimes they just take it so far that it undermines the whole thing. And just because you question net zero as a response to climate change does not make you a climate change denier. It makes you someone who's smart enough to say, you know what, when there's such an overwhelming clamour for something that doesn't stack up, follow the money. There's far too many vested interests here, and none of it makes sense.
Couldn't agree more. 0344 499 1000. Should we be more concerned about net zero, or are we crazy to even imagine that £800 billion is going to further bankrupt this country? I go back to Mike Graham. I always do, for a simple reason. He came out with the greatest line ever uttered a few weeks ago when he said, and what happens if we get to net zero by 2030 or 40 or 50? What, do we get a medal? What have we achieved? Because we're only 1% of the CO emissions in the world, for goodness sake. Final one today. I'll give you the chance to answer this. John McDonnell, Corbyn's best mate, the one that was Shadow Chancellor for a while, has likened Nigel Farage to Adolf Hitler and called Reform UK a fascist organisation. He compared the Nazis' attitude towards Jews to the Reform view of asylum seekers and labelled Farage a demagogue. Speaking at a fringe event at the TUC conference on Tuesday morning, the MP said Reform are a pro-fascist organisation. We saw it in the 30s. What they do, they have a demagogue speaking for them. They target a particular group. In the 30s in Germany, it would have been Jews. In 2025, it's asylum seekers. Isabel Oakeshott.
I mean, how utterly pathetic. John McDonnell is guilty of the most base kind of playground politics. I genuinely can't believe it when grown-up politicians resort to Hitler and Nazi analogies. It is so pathetic. Have you got no other references to draw on? Is that all you've got to throw at it? And I tell you what, please keep going like that, Labour figures, because every time you do that, you galvanise the support base for opposition parties like Reform. So more of that, please, because you upset, I wanted to use a stronger word,
nearly.
Any normal, decent people who are nothing of what he describes. They're not fascist. Don't be so completely ridiculous. They have genuine, legitimate concerns about the flooding of our country with unskilled people, undocumented males, and the associated stress on the system and criminality. So fine, crack on with that. If that is as good as you've got, I tell you what, you will propel Nigel Farage into power faster than you can say bye-bye John McDonnell.
Loving it. Isabel Oakeshott, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. We love having you on. We appreciate your time. It's 4:22. So, Drive Time crew. God, that sounded a bit rubbish. What do you make? Lord Mandelson, should he stay or should he go? I'm sure there's a song in that. Harry Cole, that exclusive. Harry Cole saves the West on the Sun's Channel YouTube tonight from 7. We'll have him at 5 o'clock to preview that. Should he stay or should he go? 0344 499 1000. Are you a net zero sceptic? Brilliant. Is Farage a fascist? And just text me on 87222. Start your message with the word talk. What's the weirdest thing, the strangest thing, the funniest thing, the rudest thing you've ever had on a birthday card? I'm off for a wee. I'll see you in 3.
Well, Ed Miliband being branded an eco-hypocrite this morning in The Sun as well, because, of course, the Energy Secretary boasted in February that he'd installed a heat pump at his house. Now, I don't know who paid for that, but I can bet your bottom dollar that it was probably us. But it turns out that he's also got another property in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, and it's got a gas boiler in it. And he hasn't replaced the gas boiler. And worse than that, not only has he not replaced the gas boiler, but he's charged us for the bill.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 4:25. We're live across the UK. It's Wednesday afternoon drive time, and I'm joined by my old mucker, the legend, the man that presents the wonderful Morning Glory, Mike Graham. I'm in trouble.
Oh, are you? Why?
Dear Mike, well, Frank Gargan.
Gargan.
Who's called Bob. I don't know, in Glasgow, says, what an awful, childish and unprofessional approach. Your style and delivery with sexual innuendos and juvenile commentary is not good enough. Ridiculous comments by your friend in the know, Isabel, supposedly a journalist. Tories, rent boys, drugs, incredibly unprofessional. I hope that they sue. I am considering switching to a different station.
Oh, considering?
Yes. Well, we can tell you where to go. Radio, what was it?
Radio 4th.
Radio 4th is in your area.
For Edinburgh, Faith and the Lothians.
You're entitled, of course, to your opinion. I suggest you go elsewhere, and I'm just being completely honest. We're not going to please all the people all the time.
You can't do it.
But we're very pleased to tell Bob that he spent, what, 50p sending that?
Yeah.
And we're going to profit from that, so thanks for spending
Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah.
Send us another one, and then we'll have a quid. And then if we keep going, we might have to go out for a glass of beer later.
No, a glass of beer?
Glass of beer.
Yeah, we'll tell the cider story later. Cover voice notes on Lord Scandalson. Laura, go.
Fascinated by this Mandelson story. And the thing everyone keeps asking is whether or not Keir Starmer has got good or bad judgment. Clearly bad. But really, what does Mandy have on these people? Starmer must have known about this, and yet he gave them the top job. Very interesting.
It's interesting, actually, what Isabel said, I thought, Mikey, that she said that he was known as the Prince of Darkness. He was the major schemer for Blair in those days with Alistair Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
He must know where the bodies are buried.
He does know where an awful lot of the bodies are buried. I mean, I first met Peter Mandelson.
Did you?
He had a moustache, believe it or not. Yeah. He used to write a column for the Sunday People. Right. And I went to visit my old mate who was called Bill Haggerty, who was the editor of the Sunday People. And we went out for lunch and came back in. And he was a very different creature then. You know, he wasn't this very smooth, sort of rather posh speaking guy. He was a much...
You've upset Bob in Glasgow calling him posh. You're assuming he's posh.
Well, he wasn't particularly posh, but he came from North London, really. Yeah. And, you know, then they sent him off to Hartlepool, where he became known as the man who once ordered some guacamole from the fish and chip shop, thinking that it was... it's actually an apocryphal story, thinking that it was...
What do you mean? What story?
The story about the guacamole.
No, but what is apocryphal? What's that?
It's apocryphal. It means it didn't really happen.
It did happen?
No, it didn't.
Oh, I've always told the story.
No, everybody tells the story.
He was served mushy peas, and he said, I didn't know we had guacamole.
Exactly right.
With his chips.
Yeah, but he was very much part of that early kind of, you know, the New Labour. He was the architect of it. Yeah. So it was Gordon Brown, Tony Blair. He was the sort of guy behind the scenes pulling all the strings. And so, I mean, he was a very clever character, but quite a nasty character as well.
Yeah, and you said it earlier, we did Plank, which will be out on Friday at 7. Twice he's resigned Secretary of State for Trade and Industry after it was revealed he accepted an undeclared interest-free loan. Nothing wrong with an interest-free loan at all.
He just didn't declare it.
He didn't declare it.
It was quite a lot of money as well.
373 grand. January 2001, 3 years later, he's back. Second resignation. Secretary of State for Northern Ireland following allegations that he'd influenced the processing of a passport. Carl's also got an opinion of Lord Scandalson. Carl, go.
Why does everybody keep saying, oh, he needs to resign, Angela needs to resign, Ed Miliband needs to resign? Why do all these people need to resign? What's Keir Starmer doing? Why is he not sacking anybody? Angela Rayner should have been sacked. Ed Miliband even told Keir Starmer that he wasn't to be moved. Who's the boss? Now we've got Mandelson. And people are saying he should resign. No, Keir Starmer needs to stand up and be a leader. The guy is so weak, it's untrue. This is the worst government I can ever remember. The biggest shambles. It's an embarrassment to Britain.
Did you think 14 months ago, seriously? We all had we were sceptical, but I think as people who... I mean this, I don't know what you think. I'm proud of Great Britain, I'm losing it on a daily basis. Yeah. After the debacle of the Tories, I wanted them to succeed, to be honest. When I woke up that morning, I didn't like the idea. Back of my head was, I know exactly what you're going to do, give your union mates, raise taxes and basically screw everybody and we'll be bankrupt. But the incompetence, the judgment, Mikey, awful.
And the number of people who have had to leave the government, as your last message says, you know, why isn't Starmer firing any of these people? Because in every single case, both first of all Louise Haigh, then Tulip Sadiq, you know, then the guy Andrew Gwynn, in every single case that has ended with somebody resigning, he's always waited until the last minute for them to do it. You know, he's never actually gone, just cut the cord and you know, get the poison out of the system.
Which would tell you that actually maybe Isabel Oakeshot's right. Maybe his position isn't that strong within the Parliamentary Labour Party or the machinations of the bigger party. No. Maybe, you know, we have to be really careful, but there are many people, not here, that we're here and everywhere, who will say that there's stuff about Starmer, and I'm sure there's stuff about everybody. Let me quantify that. But it does when you look at his judgment. I mean, you know, anybody listening to this will go, what, you didn't think that you didn't sit Mandelson down and say, right, listen, this Epstein thing's going to blow, mate,
well,
right?
Somebody tweeted out earlier today, you know, if only there had been some suggestion that Peter Mandelson might have actually pretty bad judgment and might hang around with some pretty dodgy people. Yeah. If only they'd known that, perhaps they wouldn't have given him the job of ambassador to the United States. They did know that. and they still gave it to him.
Which tells you what?
Yeah.
Slightly dodgy. Starmer, he backed Mandelson, says Bill. Did Mandelson tell Starmer what he revealed in the interview? If he did, Starmer lied to Parliament. If he didn't, then Mandelson lied to Starmer. He's got to go. Martin's in Whitley Bay.
Ah, yes.
Fantastic. My mate Jamie's
Spanish
distraught about the Mandelson scandal. I need some help, Jezza.
Oh, yeah.
Every weekday for over 25 years, Jamie's bought his favourite after-luncheon treat in Reading, where you were born, M&S. That treat is the humble Yum Yum, beloved of the office workers throughout the land. He tells me the whole thing has left a rather bitter taste in his mouth. Why Yum Yum, Mandy? Why sully the reputation of our mate's preferred confection in your unforgivable behaviour, the Prince of Darkness? Can you, because you were here this morning, what is this Yum Yum? Because Yum Yum's a cake.
It's a sort of donut type thing.
What's it got to do with Peter Mandelson?
It's not round. Well, because he said Yum Yum, and so unfortunately when you asked me earlier, what does he mean by that? I said, I'm pretty sure he doesn't mean the confection that you can buy in Marks and Spencer's.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, because that would make it sound like we hadn't put this together.
Very popular, though, with the people in my house. My kids love it. Yum Yum.
People in my house, my kids.
Yeah.
I love the way you said that.
Well, sometimes it's them, sometimes they have other people.
Are you allowed to say the birthday card that you got from your son?
Well, I don't think I can say the word, but I did get it from my son this year. Happy birthday from your little SH1T.
Brilliant. 87222, by the way. What's the weirdest, strangest, funniest, lewdest message you've ever had? That'll upset the guy in Glasgow if he's still listening. But it does say, again, about Mandelson, right? Yum Yum, Petey.
Right.
I mean, it blows your mind.
This whole business of the birthday album. I mean, I'm just reading about it here in Telegraph. 230-page album was compiled for the Pedal Financier's 50th birthday in 2003 by Ghislaine Maxwell, right, who, of course, in case you didn't know, is serving a prison sentence for sex trafficking girls. It covers 50 years of Epstein's life, from his birth certificate to his debauched lifestyle. Right. It comprises a collection of candid photographs, drawings, and letters from dozens of the sex offender's high-profile associates, including Mandelson, many including disturbing references to his sexual appetites and inappropriate behaviour.
None of these people...
So the idea that Mandelson has told Harry Cole in that brilliant interview that Harry got for his new show, you know, I was taken in by his lies. No, you weren't. You knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly what he was doing.
But it's like last week. Everybody was going round and round in circles about Angela, and we were sitting here going, hold on a minute. In essence, you've taken money that was compensation for your severely disabled child, bless his heart. You've taken that out of a property that's meant for him to buy yourself a new property 300 miles away in Hove. This, again, he stayed in the guy's apartment in New York after he'd been in prison.
No, while he was in prison, he was there.
All right, but that's what I'm saying.
So when you turn up at the guy's house, you know, it's a bit like, you know, I come to stay in your house.
And I'm in prison.
And I say to your wife, where's Jezza? And she goes, he's in jail.
And you go, that's why I came round.
Anyway, what are we doing tonight? No. And you go, well, what's he in jail for? Trying to procure sex with child prostitutes.
I'm not with him anymore. And you move in.
You know, and then you go, oh, I didn't know. He was telling me all this pack of lies. It's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
Completely nonsense.
All right, Jez, Mikey, just a quickie one. Lord Scandalson has to go. You're all right for a call, aren't you, Mikey? Let's go to London. Ian, Jez and MG here. What you got, kidder?
Right, I'll tell you what I've got. With Mandelson, there is definitely he should go, without a doubt, because if he went for an interview today, with what Starmer knows, would he employ him? No. So if you wouldn't employ him today, you can't have him now. You've got to get rid of him.
Completely agree.
Can I just say one other thing, Jez, on a slightly different subject? You just mentioned about John McDonnell accusing Farage about being like a fascist.
He's compared him to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, can I ask you this? Why then, if he's such a lovely guy, MacDonald, and his best mate, Corbyn, why did they go marching on synagogues, not the Israeli embassy, when they were having against Israel? They marched right in front of synagogues. So it shows they're the ones that are anti-Semites against the Jews.
Mate, I can't disagree with that comment at all. Mikey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, John McDonnell, as his name, whenever it comes up, I always remind people he was a great supporter of the IRA as well. He said he was a supporter only of peace in Northern Ireland, but he had a bust of Bobby Sands in his office.
There you go. Is that another voice note? Lovely. Pete on Lord Mandelson, go.
Let's hope I never open a birthday card and there's a picture of Peter Mandelson in there saying he's coming round for a birthday party with a nice piece of slimy cake. Oh, no. Wouldn't dare want to reach that. I'd straight back in the envelope and put on the fire.
Yum, yum. I'm sick to death of these politicians saying they're sorry. The only thing they're sorry for is being caught. Where is their integrity and decency, says Tracy in Stafford. Ian's in Stevenage. Yet again, when it comes to violence against women and girls, Labour do not care. From grooming gangs to child sex traffickers, they always choose to ignore and protect their own. What happened to the country before party claim? Shame on them. That's a really interesting point from Ian in Stevenage, because you would assume, would you not, that the Labour Party would have been full of people whose interests were about looking after the most vulnerable, but it doesn't become that. It's jobs for the boys and the girls, isn't it?
They said straight out, didn't they, that we will not be a government of sleaze. We will not be a government of self-interest. We will be a government of service. That's what they said, and that's precisely what they haven't been, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. 0344 499 1000. So we'll take your calls on that. Mandelson, should he stay or should he go? What's the weirdest, strangest or most innuendo-based thing you've had in a birthday card? 87222. Actually, by the way, Labour MPs are breaking ranks already. Belle Ribeiro Addy, the left-wing MP, she's challenging for the vacant role of deputy leader. She says he should be sacked. Kim Johnson, the MP for Liverpool Riverside, said he should never have been elected or put in that position already. Couple of stories for you.
Yeah.
Number of Brits, in the Times today, has increased. 50% of Brits, Michael, are sceptical about global warming and net zero.
Do you know what that tells you? It tells you a lot more people are listening to talk than you think.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we've been giving them that message for years, and it's finally dawning on people.
Are you a climate... Do you not care about the... Let's just do that.
I actually don't.
Do you not care about the environment?
I actually don't, no, I don't.
You don't?
No, because people say to me, but don't you care about the legacy that you're leaving your children? No, not really. You know, they're going to be living their lives. I'll be gone. I'm certainly not going to stop driving around in a car in order for them to supposedly have to go a bit further north for a holiday because it's a bit hot down in southern Spain. I don't really mind. You know, we've been around for billions of years. We've been measuring this stuff for hundreds of years.
I like talking like this with you because it's like looking in the mirror, because I think it's only me. I said the other day, they can sort that. Maybe I come from a different planet, but right now, with a country that's skint, with a country that's being flooded, and I'm sorry, that's a fact, when a country's public services are on their arse, and when people who have worked all their life are struggling for the most decent things, the most basic things, I think priorities change.
I mean, you can buy energy in every other country in the world for less money than this. We've got the most expensive electricity in the world, okay? And when you ask them why, they say, oh, it's because we want to be world leaders in green energy. We want to be a green energy superpower. That's what Ed Miliband says, right? But unfortunately for him, it's not his money, it's our money.
No.
And the only way he gets to do it is to tax us even more. You know, I went and filled up my sister's car in America. You know, quite
£12.
Quite a decent car. You know, it's about $30 to fill it up. You know, here it would be something like 80 quid. You know, that's not an acceptable comparison.
No,
you know,
it's not.
Everything in this country to do with energy is more expensive.
I thought they were going to drop it to 300.
Well, they're supposed to be giving us £300 off, and we're still waiting for that. I mean, Jürgen, I was going to call him a bad name there, Jürgen Meyer.
He's the head of GB. Right, I'm being shouted at, so it's up to you, because you're an important... You are the man. Can you stay 5 more minutes, or have you got to go? We're going to a break. MG, staying with us. We're back in 3.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
90 minutes to 5, we're live across the United Kingdom on the day that Peter Mandelson has done the most astonishing sort of, mea culpa interview. You will hear it on Harry Cole, the Sun's editor-at-large in Washington, D.C. His brand new show starts 7 o'clock tonight on YouTube, and he's got the scoop. Peter Mandelson saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have trusted Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, but you went and stayed in his house after he'd been put in jail, you total idiot. Twice before you have had to resign from the government from bad judgment. Labour MPs are turning on Keir Starmer, whose judgment is being questioned. This is the latest. What have you got for me?
This is Rosie Duffield, who you will know as the woman who said that Keir Starmer's got a problem with women.
Yeah.
She's tweeted out, just a reminder, while Mandelson enjoys taxpayers' money for a job which comes with a luxury lifestyle, I was investigated for 13 months, kept from promotion and excluded by Labour for liking tweets by Graham Linehan, of course, and expressing my view that only women can have a cervix.
Rosie Duffield, let's try. I'm sure she's busy. We'd love to try and get her on drive. Let's try that right if we can. Rosie Duffield saying, so there's one rule for him, the man living in opulence in America despite all these problems.
I mean, I've been
and
in
another. Rosie Dufield's a great woman.
I've been in the American Embassy in Washington, D.C. It's quite a place, I can tell you. And not a bad little place to live, not a bad little pad to have pied à terre for PT.
Yum, yum. Mish, if you're just tuning in, yes, that is a donut from M&S. It's also what apparently was on the birthday card. Yum, yum, Petey. By the way, when Peter Cardboard does the show tomorrow and you ring him up, just go, hi, Petey. Mandelson hasn't got poor judgment. He's bloody just as bad as Epstein, and the only reason he'll survive is because he will threaten to expose others, says Michelle. I think that might actually be the... Jeremy Kyle. Right, yes, sorry. Oh, no, sorry. What do people do there? My son-in-law sent me a lovely card, says Rob and Lynn at Ramsden Heath. It said, a love from your favourite financial burden. We like them throughout the afternoon. Yum, yum. Tim's in Suffolk. I'd like to thank Bob for giving me the laugh of the day as I sit on the train. As for Scandalson, him and Starmer, best friends. One wonders, question mark. Clive says, Nigel Farage is certainly not far right. He's simply a traditional Tory. That is why he's gaining so much support. The current Tory party don't know what they're doing apart from flushing themselves down the toilet. Let's take a call if that's all right with... Oh, no, I'm not reading that. Let's go to Hampshire. Andy, you're on Talk Drive. Myself and Mike Graham are on. Hello.
Hello. Oh, it's like a threesome.
Steady.
Can I just say that everybody that keeps saying that the far right are fascist, may I remind people that fascism was born from liberals in the 1920s and 1930s. It has nothing to do with the far-right conservatives. It's liberal. But they've turned the narrative so it suits themselves yet again.
I couldn't agree more. I just think there's Mike's got a nose for it. You were a newspaper man, Mikey. I wasn't. There has to be more to this, but I keep bringing it back to whether there's more or not. Does he think that interview with Harry Cole's going to buy him? Do you think that's going to save him?
I think he's hoping it gets him past the Trump state visit, because the Trump state visit's coming like next week, right? Dan Hodges,
who's also under the cosh in America.
Well, the other problem for Starmer is that, you know, Trump is sort of wrapped up in this Epstein story as well, as much as he denies it. You know, he's in that book as well, even though he says he didn't draw the picture of the woman. This is not what he does. But the 50-page birthday book, here's what Dan Hodges says. Inside number 10, there's a mounting sense of crisis, and it's centred around the following dynamic. They realise that politically they have to cut Mandelson loose, but strategically they feel they can't because of Trump's proximity to the Epstein issue. It's the perfect storm.
Wow, that from Dan Hodges.
It's like an episode of House of Cards.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? You might think that. I couldn't possibly comment. Lynn from Crowthorne, sick to the stomach of these lies and propaganda from these so-called cabinet ministers. George, the arch two-faced schemer Mandelson trying to convince Harry Cole he was naively taken in by Jeffrey Epstein is beyond laughable. Shows how naive he thinks we are. Sorry, mate, not this time. In fact, as I'm concerned, never. Darren, it was only 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Keir gave his full backing to Rayner. Mandy is toast. Richard Bowden, this is interesting, Mikey. When I was in the army, I had to go to the military hospital in Woolwich to have a sensitive operation on my downstairs department. A couple of months later, I got a birthday card from my girlfriend. Inside was a knitted willy warmer. Worst my girlfriend's mother had ever knitted for me. I love the way this show goes from Peter Mandelson to a willy warmer. Thank you, Ryan, for your ability to change tack.
How about this as an exclusive? Sorry to keep breaking news to you here.
It's ridiculous, brilliant.
breaking news from the Times newspaper.
Breaking news.
Inside this very building, Peter Mandelson urged Tony Blair to meet Epstein in a secret memo, and officials have stopped the 2002 note becoming public, fearing that it could damage UK-US relations.
Dan Hodges is right about this. This is the perfect storm.
Look at this, and here it is. The Times, written by Chris Smythe, the Whitehall editor. Officials blocked the release of a secret memo in which Lord Mandelson urged Tony Blair to meet Jeffrey Epstein while he was Prime Minister. Mandelson is understood to have encouraged Blair to meet Epstein in a 2002 note sent to key aides, advice which was passed on to the Prime Minister.
Wow. How hard, look at you've got that journalistic look on your face. You're sniffing.
I get excited.
He gets excited. Yeah. I don't blame you. There's something. This doesn't add up, does it?
No. There's loads more. There'll be a whole absolute tub load of the bad-smelling stuff.
Fair play to Harry Cole, though, getting it first on The Sun. That tonight from 7. And just follow this story very quickly. I'd like your response to John McDonnell likening Nigel Farage to a fascist today and saying, and I quote, "We've seen in the 30s what they do. They have a demagogue speaking for them. They target a particular group. In the 1930s in Germany, it would have been the Jews. Here, it's asylum seekers." Your response to that, Mikey?
It's absolutely disgusting that he would even think about bringing Adolf Hitler into any kind of conversation about politics in this country. It's shameful and it's absolutely disgusting. And as one of your callers said, you know, let's not forget, it was the Labour Party, not the Reform Party, that was investigated for anti-Semitism. It was the Labour Party who had to expel people for anti-Semitism. Jeremy Corbyn was one of them. He's John McDonnell's best mate. They're in bed with Hamas, these people. They liked throwing parties for Hezbollah in Parliament. They've had Jerry Adams in there. You know, they love terrorists, they love the IRA. How dare he talk about the most popular man in Britain right now politically and try and smear him in some way.
Isabel said carry on because you just dig it. You didn't
she's
just
absolutely
dig
right. It won't, I mean, McDonnell's nowhere in the political scene these days, you know.
No.
He's a bitter and twisted old Marxist. He'd be better off just shoveling off and sitting down on the coast of Eastbourne with a blanket over his legs.
Not too near Bournemouth, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Legend, thank you so much indeed. Let's just repeat very quickly over the Mandelson thing, that tweet from Rosie Duffield. While Mandelson enjoys taxpayers' money for a job which comes with a luxury lifestyle, I was investigated for 13 months, kept from promotion and excluded from Labour for liking tweets by Graham Lennon and expressing my view that only a woman can have a cervix. Mike is back tomorrow morning. I'm going to say to him what's on the show, and he's going to say...
I've got no idea.
6 o'clock, Morning Glory. We're back in 3.
I think that people just had enough of him. You know, there's people are more worried about putting their, you know, getting to work and putting the food on their table than another moan. You know, oh, my brother wasn't as nice to me as he should have been moan, and things like this. I think people have had enough of the Harry and Meghan story, and really, I think if the King did actually see him, what are they going to discuss? Well, you know, I would imagine, you know, what sort of money, what payouts he's going to get, you know.
I mean, that is frightening, but so true.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8 minutes to 5. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive. If you want to be on, yum yum. I can't do it. 0344 499 1000. You can phone Jode. You can send a voice note. 87222. Start your message with the word Talk for your text messages. Deep regret from Lord Mandelson about his links with Jeffrey Epstein. It calls into question how much more is to come out. Why in the name of God did Starmer allow it to happen? Lots of people getting involved. That exclusive with Harry Cole, the Sun's editor-at-large in Washington, D.C., his new show, Harry Cole Saves the West. Tonight, Mandelson picked Harry and the Sun to sit down with. I don't think it's enough to save him. There's so many people. And what did Mike tell you just before the break? The Times have just announced that officials blocked the release of a secret memo in which Mandelson urged Sir Tony Blair to meet Epstein whilst he was Prime Minister. Mandelson, of course, the ambassador to the US, sent this message to Blair and encouraged him to meet Epstein in 2002. This was due to be made public, as is, well, the National Archives released pretty obviously after a certain number of years. Blocked, the Times understands, because it could embarrass Britain and harm relations with the US at a time when Mandelson is heading the preparations for the state visit of Donald Trump. Dan Hodges has just written, and I think Mike's dead right, this is one big can of what this is massive. This could bring down, I don't know what's going to go on. Our next guest was going to talk about what's happened overnight. He will, but I need to get his response. Mark Francois, MP, Shadow Defence Minister, welcome to Drive. We can't just talk about what happened overnight. Can you give me your response, please, from a Tory point of view to this shocking story about Mandelson? The guy had to resign twice already. This is unbelievably bad judgment again by Keir Starmer, isn't it?
Well, I think Dan Hodges' instincts on this are right. I think this is going to be big. I think Kemi Badenoch was absolutely right to go on this at Prime Minister's questions today.
One of her best performances ever today, Mark.
Yeah, and I think the media all sort of agree that, you know, she had the PM on the ropes. And he kept sort of referring to this one mantra about all the procedures were followed. Well, I'm afraid the House of Commons didn't buy that for a minute. So my instincts are the same as Dan's. I think this is going to grow. And remember, you know, although it was some years ago, Mandelson resigned from government not once, but twice.
Yeah.
Because he got into trouble. I think once over the sale of a house, and the other, I think...
the first was an undeclared interest-free loan from Jeffrey Robertson. The second was over passports. We haven't got a lot of time, and I want to talk about one overnight, but just very quickly, Isabel Oakeshott said, and this has really got traction, he must know where the bodies are buried because this man's had more comebacks than Frank Sinatra, man. I mean, he should never have been given the job in the first place. Unbelievably bad judgment, isn't it?
Well, as I say, let's see how this runs. Mandelson himself said the other day there are more embarrassing revelations to come out. You know, the whole media pack will now be chasing that. But there's a really important point here that, you know, our ambassadorial job in Washington, no disrespect to any other country, is probably the most important ambassadorship that Britain has. And you've got to have a highly respected person in that role because they deal directly with the President of the United States. We've got Trump coming over next week. You can imagine if this is not resolved by the time of the Trump visit, that's going to overshadow the whole thing.
Absolutely. Now, I want to jump in because we've only got about 5 minutes. Right. Overnight, of course, horrifying images and news that Russia had fired a variety of drones over Polish airspace. 4 have been dropped down. Poland this morning, has warned that it is at the closest point to conflict since World War II, following Russia's deliberate overnight onslaught. Kremlin drones strayed into Polish airspace, forcing Warsaw to shoot them down and trigger NATO Article 4, one below the threshold of war. Your response to that, Mark?
Yeah, so Article 5 is the famous one that says an attack on one is an attack on all. Article 4 is, as you say, a stage below that, and that means that a NATO member that believes its security is imperilled can call for a gathering of the North Atlantic Council, the senior political body in NATO, to discuss that situation. That's what they've done. That meeting will take place. Very encouragingly, the US ambassador to NATO, a man called Matthew Whitaker, has said in the last couple of hours very clearly the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory. So that is completely unequivocal backing from the US for the Polish position. We in the Conservative Party utterly support the Polish position, as does the government. There's unanimity here in the House of Commons. There was a statement at lunchtime, I was in for that, absolutely clear the whole House supported the Poles. We cannot allow Vladimir Putin to test NATO's resolve in this way. That's what he's doing.
Is it provoking? Was he provoking a response, do you think?
I think he was testing our will. You know, maybe one of those drones could have gone rogue. Don't tell me over a dozen did. So this was quite deliberate, and he's looking to watch NATO's reaction. Remember, Jeremy, we've discussed this before. Putin's an ex-KGB colonel. He's trained in psychological warfare and mind games. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's testing our resolve, and I hope NATO will give him a completely uncompromising response.
Completely agree. We haven't got a lot of time, and I completely agree with you on that. I just would like your response as well to something that's come out in the last few minutes. John McDonnell has likened Nigel Farage to Adolf Hitler and called Reform UK a fascist organisation. He said, Reform are a pro-fascist organisation. We've seen it in the 30s. What they do, they have a demagogue speaking for them. They target a particular group. In the 30s in Germany, it was the Jews. Here, in 2025, it's asylum seekers. Has John McDonnell finally lost the plot completely, Mark Francois?
But what he said is ridiculous. When I remarried a few years ago, Nigel Farage was a personal guest at my wedding. I know him. What McDonnell has said is ludicrous. But sometimes the Labour Party do this. Remember, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, had to publicly apologise a few weeks ago when he likened people who wanted to leave the ECHR to Nazis. You know, he was talking about the 1930s. He had to apologise. So I'm afraid often what Labour politicians do when they're faced with something they don't like is they start throwing around words like fascist and Nazi and far right. And I know Nigel Farage personally. He is not a Nazi, so it was a ridiculous slur, and it should, McDonnell, if he had any honour, would withdraw it.
Great to have you on, Mark. Sorry it's so quick, but we love to hear from you, and we're glad your position on what happened overnight in Poland is fast and strong in the Conservative Party. Almost 5 o'clock. The big news story of the day, Lord Peter Mandelson is facing calls to resign or be sacked by Keir Starmer. An amazing interview by Harry Cole goes live at 7 o'clock tonight on the Sun's YouTube channel. He got the exclusive, and we've got him. After the news at 5, live from DC, Harry Cole will be next on Talk Drive after the news at 5.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About Wednesday the 10th of September, I feel like I'm in a parallel universe. It was literally 9 days ago that Keir Starmer put out videos saying that phase 2 of his government was beginning. It was all systems go. We're all going in the right direction. 2 days later, it transpired, 3 days later, his Deputy Prime Minister had to go. That's the one that was in charge of housing, Angela, because she got herself a dodgy mortgage or whatever and hadn't paid enough council tax. That was after, by the way, the Homeless Minister had to go because they made somebody homeless, and the Corruption Minister had to go because they're being investigated for corruption. The list goes on. Today, and over the last couple of days, the story is all about Lord Peter Mandelson, who is right under the cosh because of his links with the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, in an exclusive that starts 7 o'clock tonight. The full interview with the legend that is Harry Cole, who'll be with us in a tick. You can get this on the Sun's YouTube channel. Harry's new show, Harry Cole Saves the West. Go for it, me old son. He got him to sit down. Now, this is Mandelson. You'll see him later. I'm really, really sorry. Have a watch.
I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done. And I regret very much that I fell for his lies. I fell and accepted assurances that he had given me about his indictment, his original criminal case in Florida. Like very many people, I took at face value what he said. With hindsight, with fresh information, many years later, we realized that we had been wrong to believe him. He's a charismatic criminal liar, we now see. And I regret very much indeed, I felt it like an albatross around my neck since his death in 2018 or 19 when it was. I feel a tremendous sense of regret, not only that I met him in the first place, but that I continued the association and I took at face value the lies that he fed me and many others.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's say a very good afternoon to the archetype with the best man, the man who got the interview, the Sun's editor-at-large, or the large editor, Harry Cole, live in DC. What time is it with you, kiddo?
It's 12:05. So, a new day just dawning, and we've got lots more coming up.
You've just created carnage in the United Kingdom. Look at the smile on your face. Now, I just want to play a couple more things because this is really good. So we all know the show's on at 7. Everybody is scrambling now about Mandelson. So we've been promoting your interview. Prime Minister's question time took place. Let's be fair, one of Badenoch's best performances so far. The Prime Minister insisted that due process was followed during the appointment of the Labour grandee. I have total confidence. Peeps, have a watch. This is the Prime Minister squirming as well.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child prostitution and sex trafficking that took place between 2002 and 2005. That is the precise period which Lord Mandelson called Jeffrey Epstein his best pal. Absolutely. Was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington?
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret. He is right to do so. He's now playing an important part in the US-UK relationship.
Harry, extraordinary work. Can't wait to see the whole thing. What's happened is Labour MPs have started to break ranks, of course. All the major news networks are running around. They're talking about Starmer's judgment, what we'll talk about in a minute. He can't survive this, can he? It was only last week we dealt with this with Rayner when Starmer stood up and said, I have full confidence. He's done it again. The question that I want to ask you is, he must know where the bodies are buried, this man. 3 times? Come on, man. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, the strange thing is, we we all kind of knew this about Peter Mandelson before Sir Keir Starmer brought him back for this great third act. Now, look, he obviously made a startling admission to me late last night. You can watch the whole episode, as you said very kindly, about 7 o'clock UK time, in which, yes, he admitted for the first time, he admitted that he stayed in touch far longer than he should have done with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction, much, much longer. Than had previously been suggested. But we kind of knew that already. That was in the public domain. Just because Peter Mandelson hadn't said it himself, Keir Starmer would have known that. It's a calculated risk. And he's in a bit of a tricky bind here as well, because the other politician in the world who's having some trouble with his former links to Epstein is Donald Trump. And he's due in Britain next week for his state visit. So if Sir Keir Starmer throws Peter Mandelson out the balloon, kicks him out the tent over this, well, that's a sort of tacit way of saying that Donald Trump should own up to his own misdemeanors and friendship with Jeffrey Epstein in the past. And I just don't think Keir Starmer will want to do that ahead of the state
Well, it's
visit.
really interesting. Dan Hodges, because we just had Mike. We just had Mike here, and Dan Hodges has said that's exactly what happens. It's absolutely. It's kicked off inside Downing Street because they realise their own MPs are breaking ranks. Kim Johnson, MP for Liverpool Riverside, claimed he shouldn't have got the job in the first place. He's complicit. You say lots of people know, right? But he's in a terrible position, Starmer. You're right, because Trump is coming. Trump is saying it's fake and whatever. You get rid of Mandelson, or you're pointing the gun at Trump. But there's a story that's just broken in The Sun, your story, and I just want to take this to you as well. This is extraordinary. That the sorts of things that he apparently, best pal Mandelson coached pedo through years of torture after arrest. In strings of leaked messages circulating in Washington, D.C., and I guess this is what he said to you, Harry, when he said there's more to come, Mandelson wrote, "I think the world of you. I feel hopeless and furious about what has happened. I can still barely understand it. It could not happen in Britain. You have to be incredibly resilient, fight for early release and be philosophical about it as much as you can." The email sent between the pair's private email addresses continued, "Everything can be turned into an opportunity and you will come through it and be stronger after it. The whole thing has been years of torture and you now have to show the world how big a person you are and how strong." No mention of the girls whose lives were blighted by the paedophile Epstein. Come on, Harry, you're an incredibly successful journalist. Mandelson can't survive this, whatever we say about Trump. Surely he can't, can he?
It's a fairly astonishing email, which Lord Mandelson's team are not disputing the veracity of tonight. This was during his plea bargain, Epstein's plea bargain in Florida, where he was given a noticeably lenient sentence in June 2008, where he got 18 months for soliciting a minor, which is a sort of a deal cut with the prosecutors, and at that time, Mandelson was emailing saying, push for early release. You're right. It's exactly what the ambassador was talking about on our show, where he said, look, this is going to get rough. There is more to come. But all I can say is, I'm sorry, and I got it wrong. And I hope I'm doing a good enough job as it is to let sleeping dogs lie. But yes, the first question I asked him was, how's this going to look to those people still seeking justice after all these years from a dead predator?
It's extraordinary. And something else that came out, love your take on this. I don't know, you know everything. You're the font of all things. Times are reporting in that... What?
I wouldn't go that far.
I would. Listen, look at you with your life in DC, man. And you see what follows you around? Oh, Jack Elson, gutted, man. It's all happening in DC now. This is out...
I'll be back next week, don't worry.
I know, I'm on your show. Officials, just this in the Times, blocked the release of a secret memo. Have you read this one already? Did you know this? In which Lord Mandelson...
Brand new information for me. Come on.
Right. This is just released by The Times. Officials have blocked the release of a secret memo in which Mandelson urged Sir Tony Blair to meet Epstein whilst he was Prime Minister. Mandelson, of course, is the current ambassador, is supposed to have encouraged Blair to meet Epstein in 2002. There was a note sent by key aides, advice which was passed on to the PM. Documents were supposed to be made public as part of the National Archives release, but this was blocked. The Times understands that officials concluded the document might embarrass embarrass Britain and harm relationships with the US at a time when Mandelson is part of trying to rebuild relationships with President Trump. I mean, you just did a little interview. This is turning into a scandal. Nobody can overrate this. This is a massive scandal, Harry Cole.
Well, look, I mean, it's one of those ones where, it's the tide is, is the dam about to break? I suspect it probably is. This is, it's always a calculated risk for a politician, someone like Peter Mandelson. Do you sort of fight fire with fire? Do you tackle things head on? Do you try and get in front of this stuff? He's obviously come out swinging, tried to get on the front foot, and we'll see. We'll have to see how it plays out over the weekend.
When you were doing the interview, which I can't wait to see at 7, what was his demeanour? Because he was, of course, called the Prince of Darkness. We know he was central to New Labour. We know that he had to twice resign from cabinet positions, the first as Secretary of State of Trade in 1998 in December over nothing wrong with an interest-free loan, but an undeclared loan of over 370 grand from Geoffrey Robinson, a fellow minister. And then he came back very quickly, 3 years later, to the Northern Ireland office, and then was having to resign because he'd influenced the processing of a passport for an Indian businessman that he had links to. So, again, I ask you, I know, you're laughing. I'm like, Jesus. So Isabel Oakeshott made a point. Love your response to this. She said, anybody with a brain cell would have looked at this and gone, he's too dodgy to touch. How much pressure was put on Starmer by Labour grandees? How much influence has Mandelson and other people got over Starmer, and what does that say about our PM?
Well, look, I mean, despite the fact he's never far from the headlines, never far from scandal, Labour, the Labour talent pool is actually pretty limited. So in terms of people who know what they're doing, have cut their teeth, who, actually have served in relatively successful governments, Lord Mandelson is one of them. He's obviously very close to Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. It's a clear message to the left of the party that the direction of travel is not going their way when he was appointed. And also he operates in a world that we can only imagine, Jeremy. Like, he is up there, and he's got into trouble because of it, up there with the global elites, and they sent him to DC with one reason: get close right into the Trump White House, and he's done that. But that's going to come at a price.
Listen, I know you're busy, got to go. One word answer: does he stay or does he go?
Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Harry Cole Saves the West, and you'll find out there.
Good answer. 7 o'clock tonight, the legend is Harry Cole, editor-at-large of The Sun. Harry Cole's YouTube channel, Harry Cole Saves the West, tonight at 7 o'clock. That whole thing, I'd love to know what you guys make of this. 0344 499 1000. Does Keir Starmer get rid of him? Jezza, the difference between Trump and Mandelson's relationship with Epstein is that Mandelson was Epstein's best mate, and Trump states the card he sent is fake, and he's suing the publication. Maybe that's right. Julie from Nottingham. Mandelson saying he took Epstein at face value. In the position he held, he should have checked and double-checked and treble-checked. He had the resources to research the story. Keir Starmer is proving more each and every day that he has absolutely no judgment at all. Mandy, yet another politician sorry they got caught. Not sorry, says Darren, for what they've done. David Pickford, I think the only thing that Mandelson regrets is getting caught out like the rest of these here today, gone tomorrow politicians. Still, his ridiculously generous pension scheme remains intact, no doubt. Finally, Margaret in Birmingham. Afternoon, Margaret. Scandalson is a close friend of Starmer. No way would he sack him. He has confidence in him. That sounds like a football manager. No way will Trump want Pete Petty at the banquets. Very interesting. Well, maybe Trump will, because it will turn on him. 5:15 to the... God, it's busy today. Thank you to Harry Cole. Let's go to Liverpool. Carl, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. I'm OK, thank you.
What do you say? Should he stay or should he go?
Oh, he's got to go, but if I may make a point. So in this country, our Prime Minister can have his way and get people locked up for hate words via online tweets. You can have ministers sacked for being a homeless minister, then making people homeless. You can have someone in charge of fraud be sacked because of that. Then you have Angela Rayner.
Yep.
But you can't sack an MP who representing our country, by the way, in the States, for having associations with a known creature such as Epstein. You can't sack him, but you can lock a lady up for hatey words. I mean,
without any shadow of a doubt, and Listen, I'm with you, and I think the big issue here today is actually not Mandelson. And I thought Harry Cole made a really good point. Look, everybody knows. And if they didn't know, they do now, what Mandelson is. But no, hear me out. The point is, our Prime Minister hasn't got the backbone. He did it last week with Angela Rayner. He only sacked Rayner when he found himself right back against the wall. He doesn't have the courage of his convictions to stand forward and go, you got to go, mate. Sorry, that's it, because he's terrified, I guess. Why is he terrified?
Well, Jeremy, she didn't get sacked. She resigned, just like a couple of others. He hasn't got a backbone. He's shown that on many occasions. But there's no way on God's green earth that this man didn't know about this before he made him the envoy for us, for our country. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Well, then he's that stupid, then he didn't think this would raise its ugly head and cause yet more embarrassment for his government, then?
Well, do you know what, Jeremy? I spoke to Julia a few weeks ago, and I said about him making mistake after mistake, can someone be that stupid? And she said to me that all politicians are stupid. So I genuinely...
She is the Queen of Westminster.
Yeah, and I genuinely believe that he is that stupid. But this is the thing now. We live in this country where things like this can go on. Because although it may not be Peter Mandelson's fault, but he has had...
Hold on a second. What do you mean it might not be Peter Mandelson's fault? A bloke... Let me ask you... No. Let me ask you a question. Listen. Stop talking. Listen. It might... Don't say a word yet. It might not be Mandelson's fault. I'm going to put you in a position. A mate of yours, Carl, is in prison for soliciting young girls. You still going to stay in his house, are you?
No, absolutely not.
Right, there you are. His judgment's crap.
That's where he's gone wrong. That's what I mean. That's where he's gone wrong.
Yeah.
He's made those mistakes. So he should be sacked. He shouldn't be allowed to carry on in that role. He's representing us. That's not how we look at the world.
I agree.
People.
Now, I've got to go. You're a very kind man. Right, it says voice. Oh, there it is. Wayne. I want to play something I can't. Wayne, voice note on Starmer. Go.
I mean, come on. How long does this guy need to make decisions? I mean, just imagine. Mr. Prime Minister, the nuclear missile is only 10 seconds away. Let's just wait and see. Let's just make sure it's definitely coming to us. Sir, we have 5, 4. Hold on a second. Sir, we need your reaction now. Let's just look at the facts. Oh, no.
I can't go on. Adam's in Belfast. Good afternoon, Ad. How are you?
Hello, mate. It's nice to talk to you again, Des.
Good man. Have you got the radio on there?
No, I don't.
All right, it was cutting back on me.
Funny.
What you got? You feel sorry for Lord Mandelson, do you? No.
Yeah, no, I don't feel sorry for him. I'm glad he's going to be in America lots, because I hope when the stack of cards come falling down, he's actually in America and he'd be prosecuted out there somehow. I don't know that's going to happen because seeing that Trump's involved in it as well. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that like he's over there anyway. Like he's been given that position. It's obviously, I think, a reminder to the people.
Can I make the point that legally I have to? Peter Mandelson, and you can see the whole interview with Harry Cole on his new YouTube channel. Harry Cole Saves the West from 7 o'clock. Check it out, guys. Backed by the Sun. Fantastic piece of journalism. The whole country's talking about it. Here's the thing, right? He says, I've done nothing wrong, right? Despite the evidence, right? So we have to report that. I think the man is in severe trouble, but I think the government are in severe trouble. I think there's a bigger fish. I think Mike got it right half an hour ago. Dan Hodges says Downing Street is in turmoil because if they feed him to the wolves, whether they can or not because he knows where the bodies are laid, just ahead of the state visit, that says to Trump, we think he's guilty. You're associated as well, so that harms relations. If they keep Mandelson, they're going to hack off the people and all of their country. And do you know what it makes me think? And you're not going to love... Well, you might love it. I don't know. This, my friends, is living proof to the Labour Party that the view from the cheap seats of opposition is a lot easier, than being in government. Because in the last 14 months, they have lurched from disaster to disaster. You with Tour Drive?
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
My friends, 5:25. So much more to come on Drive, and your calls and your text messages. Thank you for all of them. 0344 499 1000. Your text messages to 87222. Valerie Mitchell says, I'm wondering if and when Mandelson resigns or is sacked to get a pair like Angela did. I don't know, mate. Honestly, I'm beyond. I can't even begin to imagine it. Margaret's in Birmingham. Starmer will not sack another one of his cronies. It's jobs to the boys. I couldn't disagree. Becky says, Jez Gracia, just a quickie. Someone once said that the minute you mention Hitler, you lose the argument. Well done, John McDonnell. How to insult and isolate a huge number of ordinary people who your party purport to represent whilst also simultaneously losing the argument with one word. Quite an achievement. This is the story that John McDonnell this afternoon. Love your response to this team. Has likened, well, he's actually said that Nigel Farage he likened him to Adolf Hitler, and he said of Reform are a pro-fascist organisation. We've seen it in the 30s. What they do, they have a demagogue speaking for them. They target a particular group. In the 30s in Germany, it would have been the Jews. Today, Reform do it with asylum seekers. I think John McDonnell doesn't quite understand how many people in this country... What was it I read today? The #1 issue that people are concerned about is immigration. You think back to, what, 10 years ago, you couldn't mention these words because, oh, this would be racist. It's not racist at all to be concerned about what's happening with your country. Joe from Norfolk. Love the show, Jez. Well, they say 3 strikes and you're out, so Mandelson has already had 2 strikes, so this will be the 3rd and final one. Yeah. Josh Walker, Starmer is treading on broken glass. Tell me about it. Derek, 3 people that have trashed this country and the reason it's in the state today. Blair, Campbell and Mandelson. Disaster to disaster, says Richard. It's all of Mandelson's own doing. Let's get a new caller on. He's in Hampshire. He's called Mark. You're on Talk Drive. Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jeremy.
Welcome to Talk Drive. What's your take on this, my friend?
Well, my take on this is everybody now knows that Epstein was a colossal paedophile.
Yep.
Mandelson was hanging around with him, along with lots of other rich and famous people. Now, if at these parties were lots of young girls, were they all pretending they weren't really there, or were they all sampling the forbidden fruit?
Well, this is the point, I think, and this is why I think that Dan Hodges is absolutely spot on in the last half an hour. He says that actually Downing Street is in an incredibly difficult position. Good, it's of their own making. They put into the job of ambassador somebody who they patently must have known more about what went on than they're letting on, and if they didn't, what does that say about their processing systems? But if they get rid of him, I said it 5 minutes ago, ahead of the state visit, that's going to make them think, well, it's going to make the Americans think, because they've got Trump saying this is all rubbish. Are they saying, well, he must have been complicit, so are you? If they don't get hold of him, I mean, I think that the Labour MPs are going to start. Do you know Rosie Duffield, the lady who got sort of slaughtered by the Labour Party over her arguments on the transgender issue? She tweeted this just a while ago. So while Mandelson enjoys taxpayers' money for a job which comes with a luxury lifestyle, I was investigated for 13 months, kept from promotion and excluded by Labour for liking tweets and expressing my view that only women can have a cervix. The truth of the matter is, I think Keir Starmer is in dire trouble yet again. Mark, let me ask you a question as a new caller to this show. What's your view of this Labour government and in terms of its longevity and the performance it's had over the last 14 months?
It's like a chocolate fire guard. They are now in free fall. They are, yeah, they're done.
I've listened to MG for a long time, and Mike says there's no way on God's green earth that they will last until 2029. Thank you so much indeed, Mark. And for anybody who thought that JK's drive time was thrown together, my last sentence was God's green earth. Do you see what I've done there, Ryan? One other big story today. We'll get, if you want to talk just about Mandelson, that's fine. We talked about Farage being... I'm just seeing John McDonnell on screen. He called Farage a fascist. You might want to report on that. The other thing, shocking news in the Times today. The number of Brits who think the dangers of global warming are trumped up has soared by 50% in 4 years. This is because we've got an energy sector in a government who'd like to spend 800 billion quid of your money to convince you that net zero is achievable by whenever. Not sure what we get, as Mike says, when we get there. But we're a country with no money who can't even afford the interest on their debts. So what we're doing is putting in wind farms that don't create enough electricity, and then we're paying more money, which makes your bills higher because we have to import it. And then, as I mentioned last week, if it does blow too much, like it's going to this weekend, it's even worse with that because we can't afford to store it. And it's also really expensive to turn them off. I had this man on a couple of weeks ago, and he's the only man who's ever made serious sense to me of the net stupid zero ideas. Maurice Cousins, Campaign Director, Net Zero Watch. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Well, I'm all right. I thought of you. This doesn't sound particularly bizarre. I thought of you the other day. I don't know where I was. Somewhere in Norfolk. And I looked out to sea and there were those bloody wind farm things. What an eyesore they are as well, apart from being useless. What a bloody eyesore they are, aren't they?
Well, I love the idea of you thinking of me on a lovely walk in Norfolk in the windmill. Mate.
Yes, I know. Honestly, I was with the wife and the children. It was all going on, and suddenly Maurice Cousins.
I ruined your afternoon.
No, it was great, mate. No surprise that suddenly 50%, the scepticism towards this net zero ideological madness, is growing. And on a serious note, actually. You'll still find all sorts of people who will trump, excuse the pun, the importance of it. But I think the reality of what it will cost and for what it will return is starting to sink into people, Maurice.
Definitely. I think, the reality is that we are now, we've had a cost of living crisis, and I think it's really starting to sort of bite. And an awful lot of people, are really having to sort of, they're struggling with their bills, etc. And, things like global issues like climate change are, falling down the pecking order in terms of what should be prioritised. It's perfectly understandable. Economic issues will trump, vanity projects that are being pushed by Westminster.
When you think about, as you just said, Westminster, and then you think about people from, everyday working life who are, as you quite rightly put, struggling to actually pay their bills and to put food on the table. I had a guy on yesterday who said, I'm driving home after a 12-hour shift. I'm halfway through the month. I can't even afford now to go for a pint for the next 2 weeks. I pay all my bills. I look after my kids. I do what's right. He wasn't even talking about immigration. He was talking about net zero. And he was just saying, my government doesn't seem to spend the huge amounts of money that I give them in the most useful and appropriate ways for people like me. And I think, I watched some awful video this afternoon, by the latest one by Ed Miliband. Christ, he shouldn't be on camera. And he's going, cleaner energy and GB energy and all that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, Mike and I are of the same mindset. The next generation could sort that. And I only say that not because I'm being flippant. I mean, it might upset the friends of the earth. I don't care. But my point is, I think we have far more pressing issues right now. That's my number one thing. And my number two thing is really simple. We've got, in the words of the Trumpster, liquid gold under our feet, and we refuse to do it when we know that resource could basically free us from the financial hardship we're in. It doesn't make business sense, that at all, does it?
Not at all. I mean, workers today have got their wages today in real terms are no higher than they were in 2007. We've got millions of people living in fuel poverty in the UK. We've got millions of people living in food insecurity as well in the UK. Yes, we have a duty to future generations, but we also have a moral duty to those who are in the present today. And we should be looking after their needs. And energy sits at the heart of that. And I think, you've really hit on something at the core of the issue, which is that, Miliband and others for decades now have promised us green jobs. They promised us green growth. They've said that it'll be a manna from heaven is what they've sort of the way they've positioned it, and it hasn't happened. And I think an awful lot of people now are starting to sort of see that with the cost of living crisis now having gone on for a number of years, they're starting to say, well, they failed us during this crisis. How much can we actually trust them when they say that that this net zero agenda is going to be all that it's cracked up?
Because of course the bills were supposed to go down when in reality they've gone up, and just in pure economic terms, you're right. I've said it so many times. When your country's doing well, I don't know whether we turn a blind eye or we don't think about it, but you're right, your food costs more, your electricity costs more, your petrol costs more, your council tax has gone up. When you think of a government that's blatantly lied to so many different sections of society, but seem to be pushing ahead with something that makes no fiscal sense. And here's the thing, we produce what? 1% of carbon emissions in the world. If I thought the rest of the world was going, oh my God, we're going to blow up, but China and Russia and all, no, they're not, right? So I just feel that the country is... we've got some breaking news, by the way. Prince Harry has just arrived at Clarence House. He is going to meet King Charles in the next 5 minutes. Can we get somebody royal on to do that, please, straight away? Sorry, Maurice, I just had to do that. Harry has just arrived at Clarence House. I don't understand how a government believes it can sell to a people who are struggling, that they want to spend money we haven't got, OK, on something that probably isn't achievable, that the majority of people don't want in the first place. That's it, Maurice, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. And I think, the key point that you sort of made there was that we are only responsible for 1% of global carbon emissions. And, there is a principle in British politics about those with the broadest shoulders, the burden should sort of fall on them. Well, the same applies for when it comes if we're dealing with climate change. Britain is only responsible for 1% of emissions. If we reached net zero tonight, it would make not a scrap of difference to the emissions balance sheet. So
that's what I mean.
If we want to be able to lead on climate change and we want to be able to take serious and effective action, we need to have a growing economy. We're of no use to anybody if we're weak and we're impoverished. We can't support countries in the third world. We can't help ourselves, and energy is at the heart of all of that.
Couldn't agree more. You are my go-to, and I mean go-to, net zero man. Thank you so much indeed. Maurice Cousins, campaign director for Net Zero Watch. Breaking news at 25 to 6. Prince Harry has just been spotted arriving at Clarence House, where my old man worked for 41 years. The Duke of Sussex is understood to be about to hold a face-to-face meeting with his father, King Charles. We'll update you after this break on Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's a show you need to wake up to every morning. Morning Glory on Talk, the home of common sense and free speech. That breaking news story, Prince Harry has just been spotted arriving at London's Clarence House, just off the Mall, and the Duke of Sussex is understood to be holding face-to-face meetings with his father, King Charles. We will get our royal correspondent to respond to that between now and 6. We'll go back to the phone lines. Loads of you talking about all sorts of stuff. The Sun, what's breaking in the Sun? That's about Prince Harry. Phil's in Hull. Phil, good afternoon. You're on Talk Drive. How you doing?
Fine, thanks. Thanks, Jeremy. Enjoying the show. Could I just make a couple of points?
Of course you can.
First off, odious. I mean, that's the only way to describe Mandelson. I mean, basically, I think he should have been in jail about the mortgage part. But the real point I was trying to make was, it just shows how inept Starmer is, because to me, when he was talking about making the ambassador to America, and Farage said, "I'll do anything I can to help smooth things over," why didn't he try to get Farage to do the job, to be the ambassador? He could have killed two birds with one stone.
Because they're terrified of Nigel Farage. This afternoon, John McDonnell, who used to be the Shadow Chancellor, described Nigel Farage as being likened to Adolf Hitler. Many people in Labour and many people across this country are terrified of Nigel Farage. Of course they weren't going to include him, but actually he's not the issue here. The issue is the judgment of our Prime Minister, who didn't, through due process. I mean, this is the thing. Did he know? If he did, then Mandelson must have loads on everybody. And if he didn't, what does that say about the way he does his business? Great to have you on, Phil in Hull. Thank you. Let's go to Chorley. Chorley FM. Amanda, hello.
Hello.
Chorley FM, coming in your ears. There we go, I did it. How are you, Mandy? What you got? Oh, Mandy! Yeah, oh, Mandy! No.
Never mind that. I'm called Amanda, not Mandy.
Yeah, because Peter Mandelson's called Mandy.
Yes, but my mother would kill you if she heard you calling me Mandy.
You can't threaten to kill me, Yum-Yum. What's wrong with you, Petty? Come on, crack on.
Right, listen. Peter Mandelson's got to go. He should never have been the ambassador. It's a waste of complete time, and Keir Starmer's judgment, as ever, is the worst on record.
Absolutely. And what do you say to the people earlier who said there must be other stuff for him to have survived like this? He's
got it on loads of them.
You'd have to think that, wouldn't you? Because you just couldn't.
But I'll tell you what.
What?
I don't think he's got it on Trump. I think Donald Trump might have socialised with Epstein, but I don't think he's a paedophile.
No, neither do I. And there isn't any suggestion that anybody is. Listen, Epstein was convicted of that and took his own life. And of course, this birthday card and Trump's arguing about was it his signature or whatever. I'm sure a lot of very successful people. Clinton's admitted that he was there. Lots and lots of people were lured into this man. What we're talking about here with Peter Mandelson is this. You borrowed his house even when he was in jail for procuring young women, you idiot. And you come out with some apology, which you can see on Harry Cole's new YouTube channel, Harry Cole Saves the West at 7 o'clock, and you say, I'm really sorry. But you notice one thing Mandelson didn't mention? Not in the bit I saw. Nothing about the victims. Listen, Amanda and Shirley, thank you so much indeed. 0344 499 1000. Rob says, do you think Randy, Mandy and Andy will form a support group? That'll be interesting. 21 minutes to 6 o'clock. You heard that breaking news. Prince Harry has been spotted arriving at Clarence House. We say a very good afternoon to Talk's Royal correspondent Rupert Bell. Hello, Belly. How are you?
Very good, thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks for responding so quickly. I had... what's that lovely man on yesterday? My brain's addled. The royal editor, Robert Jobson, sorry. And he said, this ain't going to happen. I think the King's coming down for medical treatment from Scotland. I had no reason to believe that wasn't right. Does this shock you that Harry's seeing Charles?
To some extent, yes, but he's down in London, and if they could make their diaries work, then why not? But what needs to now happen, and I think this is the important thing, is there needs to be no details of what is discussed.
That's why they don't want to meet him in the past, because they're convinced it'll be in the papers in 5 bleeding minutes, Belly.
So, exactly. So Harry has got to make sure that, the King needs to say to him, right, great that we're meeting up, and it's lovely that you're my son, that we can have, I don't know how long it's going to be, but say it's couple of hours, which is fantastic. Yes, we did think that the King was coming down. Wednesday is normally his treatment day, so I'm told.
Right.
So he flew down from Aberdeen today. Obviously, Harry goes back tomorrow afternoon after some engagements and things that he's doing in the morning. So this seems to be the logical time. And actually, just from a human perspective, you've got to say, well, fair dues. But
yeah, you see, the problem I've got with that is, and I'm not trying to be cynical. Genuinely, I'm not. I'm being honest. I've made the point that I don't believe that people think it won't end up in the public domain, but we all know, without going into details, that the King is not in great health. He's suffering from cancer and he's fighting treatment and he's an older person. So we don't know about longevity or whatever. There's a part of me, because I know you know what I'm going to say because you're putting your head in your hands. I'd love to think he's come to see his dad. There's a massive part of me that thinks he wants to get in before his dad's no longer here to make sure. I mean, I'm being completely serious, and you won't admit to that, but there's no way his brother's having him through the front door ever again. And I hope it's not about money. I hope from a human level it is, hi, Dad, how you doing? Not, how am I going to be if you're no longer... But do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I see what you're trying to say, but the William and Harry thing is going to be a long time in resolving. The King... You know, he is his son, so therefore he just wants to try, given what you've just said, feels that he's done all in his power to restore his relationship, that's the King and his son's relationship. It is fractured, of Harry's doing, not the King's doing. OK, you can go back in through time and Harry, you know, and everything, the divorce and all that, but that's irrelevant now. What is important now is that the King feels that he has made time, and then and the proof in the pudding will be, can he keep his mouth shut?
Do you think he will?
You know, well, his history over the last 3 or 4 years is not great.
I'm thinking to myself, I'm sat here thinking, as you said, on a human level, pleased. For Charles, actually. Not sure the kid deserves an awful lot, but that's the way it is. Maybe I'm not a forgiving person. I wonder whether the British people will forgive him. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. What I'd hate to think is that Charles making that effort is thrown back in his face, because the arch manipulator might not be here. She might be in wherever. Where is she? In California. But it seems to me that there has always been an agenda. There always has to be a reason for it happening. And, you know, of course, he can't just turn up at Clarence House without press being involved. But, you know, I don't trust them when it comes to the press. I don't trust them when it comes to what they want to achieve from something. Because I lived on the Long Walk, you know this, for 7 years. I happened to be on the Long Walk before anybody else when the four of them came down after the Queen had passed. And I could see those Netflix cameras hiding behind a tree 70 yards away. And I just hope this is, Dad, how are you? I don't want it to be like this. I want us to make amends. I'm sorry. My wife's this, or whatever. I hope it's that. I hope he doesn't arrive, not get the answers that he thinks he deserves, and stalks off and does an interview. Because that's not fair to a guy who's ill, and his father is ill.
Yeah, and it might be slightly frosty as well, because, you know, there's always a bit of small talk. Can they get to the nitty-gritty? You know, that's, you know, when there's always sort of something lurking in the background from, you know, how can they just go, right, it's just like a mum and a father and son meeting, there's been some bad blood, how do we then just sort of get it out in the open? And that's what is needed. But and it is probably a relief that actually there's no Meghan lurking in the back, you know, when he goes back to his hotel tonight. OK, he might get on the phone to her and talk to her about it. But hopefully that's where it will end. He can have, and all the conversations are strictly private, and that is how it should be.
And isn't it terrible, though, that I'm sitting here going, we'll obviously follow this story, because as the press we want to obviously know what is said. And perhaps it is best to leave it that a guy who isn't well is able to see his son. And please God, you know, Harry's intentions are right. And that's it, because I don't, you know, I hear all the people who say, oh, but he had a hard time. Yes, he did. He lost his mother. And it must have been awful in the public eye. But there's millions of people who lose their parents and don't trade their family name and tread it into the earth. And I think that maybe he has wised up. But even that, Rupert, when I'm reading, he wants to come back. Do you know the first thing that goes in my head? Why? The money run out, has it? Opportunities run out, have they?
Well, that is it. The opportunity's run out. He's rudderless while his wife is trying to make a go of it. He's sitting in California with not many friends. Family connections are at a minimum. And this is the first step. And she's out of the picture as far as that is concerned. And at the moment, he looks a slightly unhappy figure in California. Over these last 3 days, we've seen him. He looks like he's enjoyed the engagements he's been on. Seems to have
it looks
been
like
well
a
received.
false smile. Come on.
Well, no, what I'm saying,
everything's fine.
Well, when you see in PR, you see the actresses walking the red walk and everything, we know that's part of the game. But at least it looks from a perspective. How many people have turned up? I haven't been in Nottingham where he was or wherever he was. Was there great crowds there to see him? But the charities were happy to see him that he's been involved in. So you've got to take it and say, that's fine. What can he do now? Because he looks... That's what he's trained to do. And this is what he cut himself off from. And because he's not the sharpest tool in the box, he's found it hard to find something else to do. And he is, back in the day, he was pretty good at doing this stuff. But the most important thing now is that Harry and his father can actually have a cup of tea or whatever it is they're meeting over and actually have a way of saying, right, let's try and build the bridge again. And that maybe it will be a time when his children, that's Harry's children, can come over and see and be part of the family again. But I do just feel that the current Duchess of Sussex, or the Duchess of Sussex, I should say. No, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. But I knew you'd get red rag to a bull. That to you, isn't it?
Right,
Anyway.
listen, you're a good man, and I mean that because we caught you on the hop. We're just responding to that news, but you're dead right. Harry been spotted driving into Clarence House. Rupert Bell saying though that he hopes very much that the face-to-face meeting with King Charles will be private. It will be kept private, and the two of them, will be able to have a conversation. We'll certainly update you over the next few hours and days. Rupert Belly, you're a legend. Thank you very much indeed. 10 to 6. We're live across the UK. So many people want to talk about Mandelson. So many people want to talk about net zero. So many people want to talk about John McDonnell, who's called Nigel Farage what he's likening to Adolf Hitler. Now people want to talk about Prince Harry. We've only got an hour and 10 minutes to go. Get your call in 0344 499 1000. Let's talk drive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 6 minutes to 6. It's time for the sport. Yesterday it didn't fire. Amy, it's on you. Go.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From the Sun.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. That sounds like a description of my love life. Dean Scoggins, Deputy Head of Sport at the Sun. And we've just realised we've got a link with Close House, and I introduced you. You're a golfer. What do you play off?
12-ish.
Do you? We should have a game, son.
Absolutely.
My son's off scratch. Wants to be a
really?
pro.
I don't want to play with him then.
No, absolutely. So I am the biggest cynic about the England football game. I hate the Nations League. I'm sat in a hotel room last night and I just thought, I'll put it on. Where did that come from? 5-0 against Serbia away in Belgrade. Unbelievable performance.
Fantastic. They haven't conceded a goal there in 8 games. So
Yep.
it was, and we didn't see it coming either. Look, England have been
battered them, Dino.
Yeah,
Right?
they've been simmering, haven't they? They haven't quite. But this is lift off under Tuchel now. We can see the way they want to play. And the interesting thing is, obviously, no Jude Bellingham, no Cole Palmer, no Phil Foden, no Bukayo Saka. And yet, the most free-flowing attacking performance we've had. So
Noni Madueke, Anthony Golden, Morgan Rogers, Elliot Anderson, who Newcastle had to sell.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. And well, there's some stuff tomorrow in the Sun about Tuchel, but in terms of what you're saying, but these people are posing questions, which is good for competitiveness in the squad, right?
Absolutely, and basically what Tuchel's going to say is he's not going to be frightened to make the big call. So, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold is another one we didn't mention there who wasn't in this squad.
Yeah.
You know, Reece James was outstanding again last night. So,
thought the player of the match was, and I have to give credit to him, Mark Gay. I thought the guy, he loses his dream job transfer to Liverpool at the last minute. Palace pulled the thing. The guy. I thought he would. I think that partnership, him and Konza, you can say goodbye to John Stones and Harry Maguire.
That looks like the two.
Gay looks absolutely amazing.
So it's an amazing place to be, that we've got all these big names that may not
Jack
travel.
Grealish could get back in the frame, couldn't he, with what's happening at Everton?
I fear for Jarrod Bowen a little bit. I think that perhaps he's the one that could miss out, because Rashford played again last night.
Rashford looked. I mean, I've never seen Rashford track back and chase the ball. Have you?
No, absolutely.
It was. I kept watching it, thinking this is going to implode. Did you watch it, Rye? Great game of football, 5-0. I mean, Anderson was amazing. And Elliot Anderson, Newcastle had to get rid of him because of that bloody ridiculous PP. And he's at Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, and he was excellent. He looks like the number 6 in there that England have been missing. So.
And that's without Adam Wharton, who Real Madrid are looking at Palace.
Yeah. Fantastic. We've got a squad.
We've got a squad.
We can start dreaming again.
I just thought everybody looked, but really, you know, it ends in misery. But maybe, just maybe. Thomas Frank, this is an interesting one as well. The new Tottenham manager, very successful at Brentford. I'd love your take on this. Wants to see timeouts introduced in Premier League games so the bosses can get their tactical message across. Maybe the Prem will take the chance of another ad break. I mean, it's true, isn't it?
Well, it's been interesting because, and look, with my tactics nerd brain talking about it, I think it's great because then we might see tactical switches during the games more often. But it's essentially born out of the fact that the drinks breaks have become quite regular when injuries happen midway through halves.
Yeah.
So Frank's just said, well, let's formalise that. You know, it doesn't want to be a, NFL-style coach giving it a timeout, but it wants it to be, the referee says, OK, around about that 22, 23-minute mark, ball goes out of play, there's an injury, there's a stop in play, players can have a drink and managers can give a tactical
quite interesting
chat.
if you look at other games, basketball, netball. Now, you're shaking your head, Ryan. You don't agree with it. Don't you think Watford could do with some coaching? Right, Ryan's saying in my ear, and I'm going to put this to you, he says it will kill the momentum of the game. Good point, Ryan, good point.
Possibly, but it hasn't been too bad with the drinks breaks in all the Club World Cup games. And look, as I say, the Premier League are probably looking at it thinking, you know, this ad break or this tactical timeout is brought to you in association with insert betting company here.
Yep. Are you, who do you support?
Spurs.
What do you make of Daniel Levy? Was that a shock?
It was a shock. The timing of it was a shock. I think we saw it coming, especially when his right-hand woman had left a couple of months earlier.
Yep.
But the timing was a shock. But he's left it in the best possible position it could be.
We've only got a minute. This is the most extraordinary story I've ever heard. Olympic swinger Ben Proud has become the first British athlete to join the controversial Enhanced Games. Proud, 30, a world and European champion, has now committed to an event that allows athletes to take banned performance-enhancing drugs. By taking part, he will be barred from from international competition. Aquatics GP are furious, having funded his career to date and back him. I mean...
It's incredible.
Sorry?
It's incredible. So
you signed a contract to take part in games where you can take drugs to be better?
Take drugs and be better and see how far science plus humans can go.
This is money.
Yes.
This is money.
This is not sport.
This is appalling, man.
Absolutely, yeah.
The Russians will be signing up. Am I allowed to say that? But so Ben Proud, he won't be anymore, can no longer take part in anything. They funded him, and now he's signed and he's been paid a lot of money.
He's won Olympic medals, part of Team GB. You know, huge part of the squad that went last time round. He's saying, I've done all I can with my body at my age. I just want to see if the drugs do work.
No, he doesn't. He wants the money. Richard Ashcroft, the drugs don't work. You're a legend. Dean Scoggins plays off 12. We're going to have a game at Close House. It's almost 6 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Should Lord Scandalson resign? Should he? We'll talk to the legend that is Brendan O'Neill next on Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Final hour of Drive for Wednesday's all kicking off here. This is the day that Lord Mandelson, well, you're an hour away from the exclusive interview. Harry Cole Saves the West, brand new YouTube channel in conjunction with The Sun. He got the exclusive last night. Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, who before us had to resign twice from the Cabinet. First as Secretary of State for Trade and Industry. He accepted an undeclared loan. Then he got brought back to the Northern Ireland office, had to resign over a passport that he got through for a businessman friend of his. He's the UK ambassador to the United States of America. Today on every newspaper, the Epstein thing's exploded. He got called Petey and put on the birthday card, yum yum, you're a lovely man. Harry grilled him. You can see it at 7. Here's a clip.
One, I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done. And I regret very much that I fell for his lies. I fell and accepted assurances that he had given me about his indictment, his original criminal case in Florida. Like very many people, I took at face value what he said. With hindsight, with fresh information, many years later, we realized that we had been wrong to believe him. He's a charismatic criminal liar, we now see, and I regret very much indeed. I felt it like an albatross around my neck since his death in 2018 or 19, when it was. I feel a tremendous sense of regret, not only that I met him in the first place, but that I continued the association, and I took at face value the lies that he fed me and many others.
So that was that, and there's an extraordinary amount more of information that I'll share with you in the next half an hour. But today at Prime Minister's Question Time, for many people, for me included, there's another point to this. The judgment of our Prime Minister is already lost, right? The homeless minister, because she made tenants homeless. He's lost the corruption minister, Chulik Sadiq, who's under investigation by the Bangladeshi government for corruption. He lost the housing minister, Angela Rayner, his deputy, because she got a house and didn't pay the right stamp duty on it. He's the man that employed Mandelson. Now, Isabel Oakeshott said to me earlier, he's fireproof. It was probably pressurised into doing it because of the amount of stuff. But at Prime Minister's Question Time, and credit where credit's due, one of Badenoch's best performances, and old Starmer has complete confidence in a man who still went to stay in a convicted paedophile's house in New York after he was put in prison. This is Starmer.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of child prostitution and sex trafficking that took place between 2002 and 2005. That is the precise period which Lord Mandelson called Jeffrey Epstein his best pal. Absolutely. Was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington?
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret. He is right to do so. He's now playing an important part in the US-UK relationship.
We say a very good evening to Chief Political Writer from Spiked, Brendan O'Neill. Brendan, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Jeremy.
My God, it's like the House of Cards. Dan Hodges from the Mail an hour ago told this show via Mike Graham, it's turmoil inside Number 10, and it's turmoil because if they dump Mandelson, which they probably should, because Labour people are already coming out, MPs and the like. Rosie Duffield came out. Did you hear what Rosie Duffield said? She went, just a reminder, whilst Mandelson enjoys taxpayers' money for a job which comes with luxury and lifestyle, I was investigated for 13 months, kept from promotion, excluded by my party for liking tweaks and expressing my view that only women have a cervix. Dan Hodges is saying, with the state visit coming, he's in a dilemma, Starmer, because if he axes Mandelson, is he then pointing the finger at Trump and saying, I believe it about you? This is of his own bloody making. His judgment's appalling, isn't it, Brendan?
Absolutely. So now we know the Labour Party is a party where you'll be investigated if you say that a man is not a woman, but you can hang around even if you're best pals, supposedly, with a convicted paedophile, which is what seems to be the case with Mandelson. You know, I wonder if Mandelson knows where the bodies are buried.
Absolutely, Brendan. I've been saying it all afternoon. He has to. Have you heard this one? This is in the Times. This is only released about half an hour ago. This is reported in the Times. Officials blocked the release of a secret memo in which Mandelson urged Sir Tony Blair to meet Epstein whilst he was Prime Minister. Basically, he's understood to have encouraged Blair to meet Epstein in 2002. It was a note sent to key aides, advice which was passed on to the PM. Documents, you'll know this is a journal, were due to be made public as part of the standard National Archives release, but the Times understands this was blocked. It is thought that officials in the government concluded that the document might embarrass Britain and harm relations with the US at a time when Mandelson is seeking to build a relationship with President Trump, for Christ's sake.
No, you know, it's unsustainable. He's got to go. The whole thing absolutely reeks of possibly the worst scandal of his career. And he's a magnet for scandal.
He's had to resign twice before.
He's had scandal after scandal, but he keeps coming back. He keeps, you know, being the UK ambassador to America is one of the cushiest jobs in the world. It is such a good job. You have power, you have luxury, you live in a splendid building. It is extraordinary that he just keeps climbing up the greasy ladder despite all the scandals that have beset his career. But, you know, it's unsustainable because in America, lots of people are asking questions about Jeffrey Epstein. They're saying, where's the documents? Where's the files? Tell us more. We need to know the truth. And our ambassador in that country is in this awkward position of having been best pals and having said yum yum mysteriously
PT, yum yum, yum yum, PT, for people who are just tuning in. That's what. But listen, there's more. I mean, in a string. I mean, Harry Cole. I've got to say this. Harry Cole Saves the West. There's a new YouTube channel. Peeps, watch it at 7 o'clock. You've got Kev on as well. Record it, do whatever. But this hour that he's had with Mandelson has just blown everything apart. There was a string of leaked messages circulating Washington, D.C. This is what Mandelson wrote to Epstein after he was sort of charged with it. I think the world of you and I feel hopeless and furious about what has happened. I can still barely understand it. It could not happen in Britain. You have to be incredibly resilient, fight for early release and be philosophical about it as much as you can. The email sent between the pair's private email messages continued, everything can be turned into an opportunity, pal, and that you will come through this and be stronger for it. The whole thing has been years of torture for you, and now you have to show the world how big a person you are and how strong. I mean, sorry, there's me sitting here, I do a show, I'm sitting here thinking, how in the name of God did any due process miss that? Emails that the papers have picked up readily that Harry said people knew about. So it then does beg the question, as you said, how much sauce has Mandelson got on people in the Labour Party? How much?
He's got something. You know, his position in the Labour Party is just extraordinary. He seems to have this hypnotic power over the whole party and certainly the leadership of the party. It's extraordinary, isn't it, that Labour is either turning a blind eye to the rape and prostitution of white working class girls in Britain, or one of its bigwigs, one of its most powerful people in America, was apparently feeling sorry for a convicted paedophile in the US. You know,
well, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and well, I don't mind actually. I'm old in the head, but you do look at this government, and you know all those lefties who go on all the time. I'm getting back to my favourite subject, and they go on about, you know, the rights of women, and I have always supported that. I said the other day, you don't hear from them when a migrant attacks a girl on a Dorset beach. But the Labour government that would not move, would not budge on having the rape gangs inquiry, the Labour government that seems to be standing firm with a man who went to stay in a convicted paedophile's house after he was put in prison, the Labour Party who takes to court, a judge to turn off an agreement that migrants for sexually assaulting young British girls should still be able to stay in the hotel. For all their pontification about ideology, you look at it and you go, you don't care about English girls, you don't care about people in this country, do you? You'll do anything to defend anybody except the people that genuinely matter.
When it comes down to it, when you boil it down, they don't give a damn about these girls. We know they don't care about white working class girls. That's become obvious over the past few years. Now it seems they don't particularly care about vulnerable American girls either, the kinds who were so horribly exploited by Jeffrey Epstein. And now our man in Washington was best pals with him even after he had been convicted of those grotesque crimes. So this comes right back to Keir Starmer's doorstep. It comes back to his judgment, his sense of morality, whether he has one or not, what he's going to do next week, as you say, when Trump comes here. It's another sticky
Last week on this day, he was defending Angela Rayner and saying she has my full support. A week later, we're there again. I have to give credit where credit's due. Kemi Badenoch, to me today, that performance was the best as the Tory leader. She's just put out a tweet on Mandelson. These are sickening revelations. His position is untenable. Why did Starmer defend him today? How in the name of God was full process, due process followed? This was a weak Prime Minister leading a weak government mired in scandal. The public deserve better. Peter Mandelson needs to be fired and fired now. Completely agree with Kemi Badenoch. Absolutely, for the first time, on the front foot. She's right, isn't she?
She's right, and she's playing a very clever game at the moment. I don't mean she's being cynical or opportunistic, but she's playing it well because she recognises that this government's weak spot is its previous claim to be the adults in the room, the sensible people, the return of normal politics. Do you remember all that? When in fact, this country has been beset by riots, scandal, controversy, open borders, mayhem, and these political controversies, one after the other. This government is more incompetent and more chaotic than any government I can remember.
I can't. I mean, I said it the other day, and a lot of people looked at me like I'd landed from Mars. I'm proud to be British. When it became apparent that these people were going to run the government, I wanted them to succeed because I want this country to succeed. It has been an absolute show, and it doesn't matter how you dress it up, and it comes down to, I've said it on so many occasions, they're not proactive, they're reactive. They don't seem to have a trait, they don't seem to have anything in their DNA that can understand and listen to what the British people... I mean, what was that today? The Times reporting, now it's increased, nearly 50% more are cynical about net zero. Of course they are, because it's a complete waste of money. I'd like to put this to you, though. John McDonnell, he who, you know, supported the IRA and had, I mean, unbelievable. The shadow chancellor under Jeremy Corbyn, mate of his, has likened Nigel Farage to Adolf Hitler today. This is what he said about Reform. Reform are a pro-fascist organisation. We've seen it in the 30s. What they do, they have a demagogue speaking for them. They target a particular group. In the 30s in Germany, it would have been the Jews. Today, with Reform, it's the asylum seekers.
You know, the thing is, Jeremy, this crap, if I'm allowed to say that,
you can say whatever you want.
It just doesn't work anymore.
No, it doesn't.
I think people out there are just rolling their eyes and maybe even laughing at this absolute nonsense. You know, they might have got away with this 5 or 10 years ago, calling someone the new Hitler or the new fascist, or saying Brexit was like the 1930s. They might have got away with it then, but it doesn't work now. It just doesn't connect, because everyone knows that Nigel Farage is a pretty good, moderate politician who simply wants to get control of our borders, get rid of wokeness, and make this country a little bit better. Everyone with a brain between their ears knows that he is nothing like Hitler. It is preposterous. It's a defamatory comment, in my view. And also, more to the point, the absolute hypocrisy of politicians like John McDonnell, who are happy to go on some of those hate marches against Israel, happy to support that cause, even though we know for a fact that some of those marches have included people saying openly anti-Semitic things.
Absolutely.
Gangs of people.
Sorry, was he not part of a government or an opposition, you know, with the leader of the opposition, who were thrown out because of anti-Semitism beliefs? And that's an absolute fact. John McDonnell's a dinosaur. What I think is really interesting is something, I mean, I don't know if we did, I apologise, it's my age. I had an amazing text last week from somebody, and I keep using it every day for a reason. And he just said, Jez, it's this. When the silent majority finally realise their voice can be heard, the government of whatever colour is in trouble. And I think the British people have woken up to the belief that actually the stupidity of politicians, the blatant lies, that we're just going to feed you a line from a focus group and you lot are going to swallow it. I don't think the British people do anymore. I don't think they're frightened of talking about things that in the past they wouldn't have talked about. I don't think they... I mean, listen, I say this to all politicians, right? I don't think they're interested in whether you pretend to be squeaky clean. There was an article that weekend that Nigel, he said they're going to have a go at me and they're going to say, have you drunk, smoked, gambled, been a womaniser? Yeah, I have. I'm 60 plus. Yeah, I'm sure. But that's not what we're here for. I'm not going to purport to be the most wonderful human being that ever walked the bleeding earth, because it will come back and bite me on the backside. I'm here to say that's how I think we can cure these problems. That's what politicians like John McDonnell don't know. They don't know how to connect like that. And you know, those sorts of jibes are no longer. But just before we let you go, going back to this main news story, Lord Mandelson, going back to Dan Hodges, he says they won't let him go. I'm with Badenoch. How is his position? He must go, mustn't he?
The thing is that I think Dan Hodges might be right that they will try to not let him go. But the longer they hold out, the longer they defend him, the longer they circle the wagons around him and protect him from criticism, the worse and worse it will get. Because Kemi Badenoch's not going to let go of this. Nigel Farage will be onto it soon. The papers will be onto it. Harry Cole's already done an excellent job of teasing out Mandelson's thoughts. It's going to blow up like they don't know. And if Starmer holds out and defends Mandelson and then it explodes into the scandal that it really is, he's in huge trouble.
That's where some people are saying, please keep him. It's always an absolute pleasure and honour, my friend. Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer of Spike. Thank you very much indeed. 6:20. We've heard from Labour. We've heard from the Tories. After the break, the Deputy Leader of Reform, his response to John McDonnell calling his leader, Nigel Farage, well, he likened him to Adolf Hitler. Richard Tice is next on Talk Drive.
Of course, he's a civil servant now, and Keir Starmer will think a successful civil servant, ambassador to the court of Donald Trump, a trade deal signed. We've got Donald Trump coming over for a state visit very soon. He wouldn't want to lose him so quickly after losing his deputy prime minister. But the crux of it is, I think, and Mandelson himself almost laid the ground, saying it was a very embarrassing, in his words, stuff is yet to emerge.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:22. So more news. The King, yes, they have met. The King Charles, and the Duke of Sussex. They had tea this afternoon at Clarence House. Hopefully, genuinely from our point of view, I'd love to know what went on, but actually from King Charles's point of view, I hope Harry doesn't leak it. Graham Pack, if Peter Mandelson falls on his sword, here's a thought. Do you think our Ange, Angela Rayner, will be the new ambassador to Washington? She likes a grace and favour. That's true. Dave, I don't know where he is. Mandelson must stay, absolutely. Keep him in post until Trump arrives for his state visit, then unleash the whole truth and nothing but the truth in front of the King, Parliament and the people of the entire world. Pete says, wasn't the film Scandal about a character called Mandy? No, that was a song by Barry Manilow. Oh, Mandy, well, you came and you... Sorry, apologise. Jodie's looking at me like I've landed from Mars. Samantha. By the way, Jode... Samantha, this text, that's what I was going to be called if I was a girl. Samantha. Samantha Kyle. Joe, surely there comes a point when anybody doing any job becomes so incompetent that it becomes an embarrassment. Well, they say it to me every day. Not only to his profession, but family and friends and anybody linked to him. How can Starmer seriously carry on in a job that he's patently not suited for? The Prime Minister said today that he has full confidence, in full, you just wrote it wrong, in his ambassador to the US. Peter Mandelson, that's Mandelson gone then, yum yum. Please stop doing that, by the way. Yum yum, Peachy, yum yum. Anne's in Archway, nice. Starmer and government have no influence whether Mandelson is hired or fired. Decisions come from elsewhere and his fate depends on interests. Ooh. Mandelson, even if he still is in office, he'll not be in London for the Trump visit. Starmer can't afford to have him there because it will taint Trump by association. Neil, in Labour-obliterated Wales, Jezza is an ex-serviceman. I was prepared to die for my Queen. I wouldn't open my front door for her successor. OK. Richard's in Leicester. Harry meets his dad. Great distraction for all the other things going on with the Starmers. Good for the papers. Nah. What's more important? What's going to go on the front of the papers? We'll find out later with Will Barker. He's the man. Jez, in my view, Mandelson's appointment wouldn't have followed due process and wouldn't have been made by Starmer. He would have been shoehorned in by Blair. To me, Mandelson has always appeared to be a sleazebag, and I've never wavered from that view. Should he go? Yes, as should Starmer, both as soon as possible. Keep up the great work, says Bry. For the love of God, can we please get rid of Westminster? It's utterly shot. The British people deserve better. They're all a disgrace. Heather, what's Peter Mandelson got on Keir Starmer? How does this man keep coming back? It's true. Joanna from Salisbury, this man keeps coming back. People are getting confused now. Becca, I should say this. Kemi was on fire today because it's the one thing Starmer couldn't turn around and blame the Tories. That's very true, actually. Couldn't turn the boats around. 6:25. Let's go on the phones. Leeds, Steve, hello. You're with... No, I'm here. Anyway, it's Drive. What do you want?
Good evening, Jeremy. Yeah, just a quick call. Nobody today has mentioned Prince Andrew.
Oh, I did.
Prince Andrew, right? He said his excuse for not getting involved with the women was because he said he was too sweaty, and Mandelson's excuse was because he's gay. And what they both don't understand and don't get is, if they knew this guy was a paedophile and continued to associate with him, that's the issue. Whether they did something or not doesn't matter. If you stand by and watch a paedophile knowingly abuse children and go, well, it's not to do with me because I'm only stood watching. Look, the king was smart enough to disown his own brother and William his own uncle because they understood that people like this can't be associated with you. But Keir Starmer, Mandelson's my best mate.
No, I'm totally with you, and I think it does, and I'm not into conspiracy theories, but you cannot convince me that any due processes were followed. This has to be maybe it is. Maybe he's that crap, Keir Starmer, that he couldn't, pick a good one ever. But I suspect that this, and a lot of people are saying it before you jump up and down, a lot of people are saying this has come from the higher echelons of the Labour Party. There's something about Mandelson, the Prince of Darkness. He keeps coming back. He's had more comebacks than Frank Sinatra. And people are saying in their droves today, Steve, what has he got and who has he got it on? Thank you for your call. We'll head south to London. Nick, you're on Talk Drive. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, mate, I'm fine. This story gets worse and worse and worse. I didn't realise Mandelson had stayed in touch with Epstein after Epstein had
let's just repeat for people tuning in. That is the salient point. It turns out that Peter Mandelson, and I have to say this, Harry Cole, our colleague's got a new YouTube channel, the Sun at Large editor in DC in Washington. It's called Harry Cole Saves the West. Tonight at 7, the whole Mandelson interview, a complete exclusive. But here's the thing, right? It turns out that he not only stayed in the house that Epstein owned in New York after the guy was put in prison, but he was sending him emails for saying, the whole thing has been years of torture. Now you should show the world how big you are. I'm always here for you. I can barely... I think the world of you and I feel hopeless and furious about it. It's a paedophile, man. What is wrong with these people?
I've no idea, but there is something far, far wrong. If you stayed friends with him after Epstein was are convicted, then his only statement he can make that justifies staying in role is that he thinks Epstein was subject to a gross miscarriage of justice.
I think that there's so many of them in the higher echelons of society who were involved that they'll try, like they did with the rape gangs inquiry in Rotherham, to cover their own tracks. Listen, Nick in London, great call. Thank you so much indeed. Jane and John, the Isle of Wight. Why is it that all MPs express deep regret only when they've been found out and not before? The fact in complete transparency. I think they think we're stupid. Here's a politician, new to the House of Commons. I consider him a friend. He's had a nice day. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform. A very, very good evening to you, sir.
Very good evening to you. I may be a little bit breathless. I've just ran from the chamber after voting to be with you, Jeremy.
Richard Tice, I spent the entire weekend running around your conference, hosting it. I lost a stone in weight.
Weren't you brilliant?
You're very kind. Mate, help me out. You're there, right? Just so Harry Cole gets this exclusive last night, which is going out on his YouTube channel at 7 with Peter Mandelson, right? Peter Mandelson has form. December 98, resigns as Secretary of State for Trade and Industry after he... Nothing wrong with getting an interest-free loan. I'll be asking for one from you at some point, I'm sure, but undeclared, so he had to resign. Then he comes back 3 years later, Northern Ireland office, has to resign because he got a passport for a billionaire Indian businessman that might have given him... Anyway, right? Explain to me, because the conspiracy theorists are beginning to make sense to me. He must know, Mandelson, where the bodies are buried, because if you're telling me that due process was followed and they didn't understand the depths... I mean, he's on today going, oh, there's a lot more coming out. This is appalling, and again strikes at the very heart of the judgment of our Prime Minister, Richard.
Well, the key moment was when the Leader of the Opposition asked, I think, 3 questions of the Prime Minister, and for the first time, it was clear that she had him on the back foot. The whole Labour benches were completely silenced, and they knew that basically Mandelson's position is untenable. And the critical question that the Prime Minister would not answer, despite, I think, being pushed a couple of times, was when due process of vetting was being followed, was the Prime Minister made aware of the fact that Mandelson did a £1 billion type brokering a deal with Jeffrey Epstein after he'd come out of jail.
And stayed, Richard, in his house in New York whilst the guy was in jail.
So the critical question is, did the Prime Minister know of that? Was he made aware? And if so, when? And he refused to answer. And so the implication is that he was aware, and his shocking judgment was such that far from being a government of transparency and integrity, actually, he bent the rules to suit a mate.
Shocking judgment, and here's where I was saying to you earlier about people have been really invested in this story today on Talk. People are saying nothing to do with Starmer, shoehorned in by much bigger powers, the Blairites, all those sorts of people, because, you know, one mistake people will swallow. 2 mistakes, it becomes a bit dodgy. He's going to have to go. But interestingly, 2 hours ago, Dan Hodges, and Mike and I did this at 5 to 5, said, this is appalling, OK? Because number 10 are in absolute dire straits. Because the state visit next week, if he drops Mandelson, which his own MPs are breaking cover, Rosie Duffield wrote the tweet, I'll read you in a minute, they're breaking cover and saying he's got to go. If Starmer drops Mandelson now, when the president arrives on Thursday, by connection, you're saying, well, we didn't believe Mandelson, do we believe you? If he keeps him there, his position a bit like Angela. Did you hear the tweet from Rosie Duffield?
Remember she's an independent. She's not actually a Labour MP.
Well, she says, just a reminder, whilst Mandelson enjoys taxpayers' money for a job which comes with luxury, I was investigated for 13 months, kept from promotion, excluded by my party for liking tweets, simply expressing my view that only a woman can have a cervix. I think I'm going to put my neck on the line and people can laugh. I think this could bring down the government.
I can't quite see that, although many would welcome
Starmer,
it.
I think it could.
But Mandelson cannot stay. His position's indefensible. Starmer's going to look ever weaker, having defended Angela Rayner this time last week, and she was gone within a couple of days. he's going to be in the same position again. That within
Should
a
he
week,
report
by-
himself then to the independent advisor on ministerial standards if he broke the code over the appointment of Mandelson, if he can't answer the question? True, you're laughing, but genuine question.
No, I'm not laughing. I mean, it's hard to believe the pickle that the Prime Minister has now got himself into. That's the reality. And he may be semi-let off the hook, the fact that Parliament goes into recess again already next Tuesday night, so there won't be PMQs next Wednesday.
Why is that? Because of the state visit?
No, because of the other party conferences, which obviously are a bit of an also-ran compared to ours. But,
well, I haven't been asked to host them, so how could they not be?
Well, exactly. There you are, you see. And the fact that this state visit was coordinated during recess so that he couldn't be asked to make a joint statement to both Houses of Commons and the House of Parliament tells you all. So, yeah, it's going to be a very uncomfortable next few days for the Prime Minister, and he's going to have to he's going to have to fire Mandelson, or Mandelson's going to have to be forced to resign.
The other big news story, and this is why, I mean, we always love having you on, but I really would like a response to this. John McDonnell, that dinosaur, who was the Shadow Chancellor with Jeremy Corbyn, has been accused in the past of having, liking the IRA. Today likened your colleague and boss Nigel Farage to Adolf Hitler and called Reform UK a pro-fascist organisation. John McDonnell says, we've seen it in the 30s, Richard. What they do, they have a demagogue speaking for them. They target a particular group. In the 30s in Germany, it was the Jews. In 2025 with Reform, it's the asylum seekers. You're right to a response to that.
Well, the joy of a democracy is that people can say mad and bad stuff, and obviously what it says is ridiculous and appalling and offensive, but that is free speech, and he shouldn't be locked up or cautioned in any way for saying it. It's just appalling, and everyone knows it is, and he makes himself, frankly, just look
bit rich, isn't it, for a man who was associated with a party that was riven with anti-Semitism through every part of it? I mean, you're sort of being very ministerial there, very impressive. It's leave it to me. I think it's absolutely outrageous to liken anybody to Adolf Hitler.
It is outrageous, but unlike Starmer, if you do something outrageous, whether it's by voice or by tweet, Starmer himself said you shouldn't be prosecuted or jailed for an offensive tweet you then delete. But of course, he's now become a very authoritarian prime minister, which and of course, isn't it funny when Nigel anecdotally aligned Starmer to Kim Jong-un? Of course, he was slaughtered by that by the BBC and the mainstream press.
Oh,
but when
very good.
Well, they are a mess as well.
Yeah.
When John McDonnell says something equally ludicrous and offensive, then that seems to be fine.
Do people like McDonnell, even if we consider them dinosaurs, does it smack or speak of, frankly, Richard, the impact that Reform right now are having and the fear that you can sense and you can see and you can smell in not just politicians, but institutions? You can see the horror on people's faces with the realisation that this, in the words of Nigel at the conference, is actually happening.
Oh, they are petrified, absolutely petrified. You see it in Prime Minister's questions when they're all looking at us and they have pre-prepared questions by their own whips to attack us. Today they wanted to attack. They now called us a fracking stupid party, which is obviously a play on my net stupid zero. But obviously shale gas is a huge energy treasure worth potentially hundreds of billions of pounds, all owned by us taxpayers. And these clowns, they're so financially negligent, they think it's a good idea to leave that asset.
Now, if I'd
underground.
been your spad, I'd have passed you a piece of paper, because that was the next thing I was going to say. I was going to ask whether you took credit for the fact that the Times newspaper today reported that the number of Brits who think the dangers of global warming are trumped up has soared by 50% in 4 years. So there again, the government can be accused of not understanding what the majority, a large number of people. I mean, I read yesterday, Rich, they said The number one issue in the next election will be immigration. We couldn't even mention the word 10 years ago. People have been denying its importance, have been banging on about it at talk. All of a sudden they're going, it's the same with net zero. Billions of pounds on something that, isn't going to make much difference to the world at all, whilst we're sinking in a sea of debt.
It's madness. We couldn't even mention net zero, let alone net stupid zero, and criticise it 3 years ago. No. I mean, it was like a sort of blasphemy law, but now actually we're making real progress. And I think people can see the carnage being done to our bills, our prosperity, our jobs, our industries. And it's going to be a major, major factor at the next election.
Just one thing I wanted to ask you, because I didn't see before I left. The one thing that I saw Reform, which was very interesting, was all sorts of ages and all sorts of demographics. Nigel was very strong at the end. Saw him at James Whale's funeral as well on Monday. And he was talking very much about how he believed, I'd love your take on this, that the way this government is going, and today with Mandelson is another example, they won't last in his mind till 2029. Do you share that sentiment? And what are you doing as a party? Because there are people who will say they'll not be ready. Will Reform be ready? What is it doing behind the scenes, Richard Tice?
Yeah, Nigel said that we need to get ready for 2027, just in case something significant and seismic happens. And there is a real possibility of that. We're not saying it's a probability, but there is a possibility, and we need to be ready. And obviously, we're rolling our sleeves up and working incredibly hard to do that.
I'll jump in because I've just been told you need to go and vote.
I've got to go and vote.
Listen, we really love your honesty. Thank you, Richard Tice, as ever, giving us time here on Talk, responding to the fact that John McDonnell, that dinosaur who supported the IRA, has today likened Nigel Farage to Adolf Hitler on the day that Peter Mandelson, Petty, yum yum, 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 yum. He's in absolute mire. The Prime Minister's in mire. And the man that needs to tell us all we know, the Deputy Head of News at The Sun, Will Barker, read tomorrow's paper. Next on Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Kev O'Sullivan from 7 with his political asylum, and Petri Hoskins there from 10 o'clock tonight, 18 minutes to 7, which means it's time for, well, my favourite part of the show. Will Barker, Deputy Head of News at The Sun. How are you, sir?
Good evening.
Better in person than down that Zoom. What was that all about?
Working from home. You should definitely be not allowed.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Work it out.
Yeah.
Now, of course, and I guess the front tomorrow of The Sun will highlight this, the two big stories in town. Harry has just arrived to have... Somebody put he had a private tea with King Charles.
Yes.
For me, there's an interesting point there. Will it be kept private by Harry, or will he sell the story somewhere? Private tea. And also Mandelson. Let's start with Harry. The news broke about an hour ago. A face-to-face meeting. I think yesterday when we spoke to Robert Jobson, they thought that maybe... Wednesday is the day that Charles comes down for his treatment. He's back on the chemo, as we know. I'm really strong on this. What's your take on that?
I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, but
a trumpet. It was crap.
Matt Wilkins and I, way back in July, I was news editing, and it was the day after the Mail on Sunday scoop that the two teams had sort of come together.
Yeah.
And Matt's understanding from that, he was led to believe that that was sort of laying the foundations, that they were kind of creating a situation where the two sort of warring sides could finally come together. So we sat down and we kind of did a long look at the diary and then worked out this section here. We were the first ones to kind of come to this, that this period here in September was they were going to come back together and it was going to be this big moment. But then even last Saturday, there was still, I think Harry was still left in the lurch. Could it actually happen or not? Were they going to be able to have time together? But somehow the Kings managed to find a little bit of time, and Harry's got something this evening, Charles has got 2 things today, and they've sort of nipped in, had a quick cup of tea, and 55 minutes he was in there for.
Oh, 55 minutes.
Yeah.
They always take the Mickey Mailman worked for the royal family for 40 years, and I can absolutely strong royalist, but I'm telling you now, I don't believe his motives. We know that... I'm sorry, no. I wonder if it's... Not how much will I get, but his brother ain't going to give him the time of day because of the way he's behaved towards his wife and other people. I don't know what his relationship's like. I said this 5 years ago and I got frowned upon. He was going to come back here with his ginger tail between his legs when actually the reality of what he's done never worked out.
Yeah.
His dad's ill.
Yeah.
I understand why Charles wants to see his son, right? I hope it doesn't get abused, today's meeting. I hope it doesn't get sold or spun or... Do you know what? That's... And listen, we work in this business. Of course, we all want to know, right? But I hope he doesn't betray his father's confidence
I think
again.
we're sort of seeing from his side a different kind of approach recently. I mean, I know they've got a long way to go.
Doesn't it make you question the motives? Because the approach changes the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, my approach was always like, I completely get you don't want to be in it. Actually, fair play to you. But all you've done is survive by getting money by slagging off the very thing that you purport to not want to be part of. Say I don't like the monarchy, I want to leave. Absolutely, I'll support you. But now you want to come back to it.
Yeah.
It's just, I think people
But he still wants his privacy.
But that's it, Will, and I think it's like cake and eat it.
Yeah.
The other big story. Oh, Mandy.
Yes.
I mean, this is...
Yeah.
I mean, I just said I think it could cause real problems for Starmer and could bring him down. I think this is huge.
So I knew nothing about it. So Harry Cole has landed in Washington, and then this morning I started getting emails. He's landed this great scoop overnight. Mandelson was in studio. We started to leak a little bit about this morning. He's saying Epstein's been an albatross around his neck, poor fella, and he's got deep regret. And now we've revealed that there's emails between the pair of them.
Well, I read this. For people, if anybody has any sympathy, listen to this, because this is a sort of drip factor. 7 o'clock, Kev is here, that's on record, maybe Harry, his new YouTube channel, Harry Cole, Saves the West. Is it called Saves the West?
It does, yeah.
He's got the exclusive, and Mandelson sort of, oh, I'm very, very sorry. Then it comes out that despite the fact that Epstein was in prison for... procuring young women. Mandelson sort of coached him through the years of torture.
Best pal.
I can still barely understand it, wrote Petey. It could just not happen in Britain. You have to be incredibly resilient, fight for early release and be philosophical as much as you can. Everything can be turned into an opportunity. You will come through this and be stronger. The whole thing has been years of torture for you, and you know now to show the world how big a person you are. And this is another one. A separate email showed Mr. Mandelson offering strategic advice, quoting ancient Chinese General Sun Tzu. He says, remember, you are fighting back, so you need strategy, strategy, strategy. Remember the art of war. The man was in jail for procuring young girls.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, man, isn't it?
Dangerous man.
He can't survive, can he?
I don't think so. But Keir's still... I mean, we'll have to wait and see when Harry's full interview drops at 7, if Keir is still on the same tune or not. But it feels very... I mean, Kemi's calling for him.
She did well today. Credit where credit's due.
She did. And it feels that they really are all coming against him. And you've got Trump coming next week.
So this is what Dan Hodges. This is the issue to me, and I don't usually agree with Dan Hodges, but he's saying Starmer through his own stupidity, or maybe he didn't even agree to Mandelson. Maybe he was told by the Blairites. But the problem is now you get rid of Mandelson, then you're saying to Trump, who's about to come on a state visit, well, if it's right for him, it could be for you. That's going to not go down too well. Or you ignore that to try and placate Trump, and all your MPs will come out, and and then he resigns. And only 9 days ago was it phase 2, everything's great. We've lost the Deputy Prime Minister who he supported and then went, oh, maybe I shouldn't, and now this.
Yeah. And it was meant to be the big relaunch last Monday. It was going to be, this was the phase 2 or whatever of his government. And this is the second week, and he might have to do some more sacking.
Overnight, of course, those drones fired into Poland, of course, by Russia. Donald Trump has broken his silence after Russia's deliberate drone inclusion brought Europe to the brink of war. In an anonymous post on Truth Social, the president said, what's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go.
Yes, here we go.
That's what the Donald has just said. Here we go.
Right. We better go to the pub then, eh?
Yeah, I think we better go to the pub.
This is it. So after all everything's going on...
He won't like being made to look a fool.
No. After all that's going on in the world, we've got World War III happening as well. But so just before we go on talking about Keir, he's just put out a statement, or his office, that they are fully against these attacks. We might get to a point where British troops are defending the Polish border. Our defence editor Jerome Stark is feeling on is that it's just Putin poking us,
poking the bear,
trying to provoke NATO into splitting and maybe doing something rash.
It does say that if you're prepared to take NATO on in whichever guise, that could be. Now, to finish on a slightly light-hearted note, and Ryan, I need you to pin back your big lug holes here. Football fans can be, and you, Jode, can be refused a job if they support a rival team. A bloody judge has ruled bosses are allowed to base their recruitment choices on whether a new starter might damage office harmony by cheering on a different side. Employment Judge Daniel Wright said a business would not break employment rules if, for example, they rejected a job application from a Tottenham Hotspur season ticket holder because the office is full of Arsenal fans. Is this a genuine story?
Yep, it's true.
This is unbelievable. I refuse to work with a Watford-supporting lanky bloke and a bird that likes Everton.
Well, exactly. So say you get hold of Jodie and I turn up.
Don't you start those rumours start somewhere.
I'm going to come and get Jodie's job.
OK.
As a West Ham, as a Villa fan, and you're the West Ham fan.
I'm not having a Villa fan. You share our kit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll be fighting over who's the...
Actually, I'm not sure who West Ham would hate. Millwall. Who would Watford hate? Luton. Watford and Luton.
Yeah.
Villa and Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
Jode, Everton and Liverpool. That's really... Is that what we've come to? I'm sorry, you're not having the job. Not because you're not any good, but because you support a football team I think are rubbish.
Yeah. So it comes from this tribunal ruling where the applicant said that she didn't vibe with the bosses. And then the bosses said, well, it's our choice, really. So, but then the tribunal chairman took it as far as it went down to football teams.
What do you, I know you're a journalist, and what do you make of where we're at? Because I must be getting really old, Will, because it's just gone crazy, right?
Well, I mean, you know, when I started, you used to get shouted at all the time, and there was no such thing as HR. HR didn't exist in the building.
Listen, we love the association. Thank you. So tomorrow in the newspaper, Peter Mandelson, obviously, Prince Harry meeting his dad, Donald Trump. Here we go, says Donald Trump. Christ knows what that means. And it's all right not to employ somebody if they support a rubbish football team. So that's it for you. You're never coming on the show again. Will Barker, a Villa fan. Thank you very much indeed. That's The Sun tomorrow. Back in 3.
basically point of view from looking at the front of the car, driving down the street, and you've got to click a mouse when you see a developing hazard. So you see something moving ahead that, if you're driving, you may have to slow down for.
Right, okay.
You click the mouse as it's developing. So that's what that is.
So, even if it's a cyclist?
Well, if it could be a potential hazard to you, if you see a cyclist going down the road who may need to, I don't know, swerve to avoid a pothole, then that becomes a potential hazard.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Brian says, we also need to ask ourselves, why did Mandelson take the interview with Harry Cole, which you can hear at 7 o'clock on Harry Cole's YouTube, Harry Cole Saves the West. If he's as intelligent as people make him out to be, then he must have known the outcry that would follow. So I'd suggest that he knew what was coming and was trying to get ahead of the game. No. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right, phones, very quickly. Hereford, Chris, you got 1 minute. What you got, kidder?
Basically, Keir Starmer, I think he's in a lot of trouble here, to be honest, because that's the third time this has happened, and I think it's just...
Brilliant. You know why that's happened, don't you? He's with the SAS, and basically he's had to leave the phone call and undertake an important mission. Chris, God bless you. May God speed you in your mission for the SAS. Bournemouth, Karen, hello.
Hi, Jezza.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm not bad for a balding 6-year-old has-been. Actually, I'm quite good. Kevin O'Sullivan's on the way at 7. How are you? You all right? You had a nice day?
I've had a lovely day, yes.
What's that?
That's a Batty Border Collie.
That's your dog? Show's descended into complete farce at the end. Right, quack on, quack on. Come on.
OK, number one.
Seriously, get rid of the dog. I'm not trying to upset the animal lovers. You need to go somewhere with the dog, because all I can hear is the dog barking.
Yeah, she's gone.
But don't get rid of her. Just shut the door on her. Right, go on then, crack on.
First thing is Trump
what is that? What? What?
Trump did not want Mandelson as the ambassador. He wanted to keep the other one.
Yeah.
And also, too, he wasn't planning to bring Mandelson with him anyway on this trip.
Well, that's the interesting one, because there's no doubt, if you listen to Dan Hodges, you would have to argue that, you know, this puts Starmer, the farmer harmer, granny harmer, harms everybody, it seems, in a really difficult position. Because he has been at... What?
I think that Trump might have a quiet word in Starmer's ear and say, get him out.
Do you? But the problem is, hear me, somebody said earlier, if they get rid of Mandelson, they are basically saying, we agree that these files are pretty dubious. Now, Donald Trump has spent his time saying, I don't agree with it, it wasn't me. So if you say that Mandelson has gone because of that, are you pointing the finger? That's why he's in trouble. That's why it's a really dodgy situation. But I have to say, if they keep Mandelson, the outcry to get rid of him will grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, but Trump didn't. Trump fell out with Epstein before it all came out. So he's kind of safe in that sense anyway.
I think the other issue is just how many people in the world, be that, I mean, we haven't talked enough, I think, today about Prince Andrew and the links that he's got. But I suspect there are hundreds of incredibly important, high-ranking, well-known, famous, whatever words you want to use, people who must be quaking in their boots. I mean, Mandelson said today, which I found quite worrying, he said, it's been like an albatross round my neck. What about the necks of the young girls who were procured for sex underage by him?
Mandelson was lying.
What?
Mandelson was lying through his teeth.
Yeah, I don't...
And so is Starmer, and it amazes me how often Starmer seems to be defending all these paedophiles, and he's got all these judges letting them off and things. So, I mean, I think he will be gone.
One can only hope. Listen, Karen in Bournemouth, you're an absolute star. Thank you so much indeed for being on. No side